Dawn is not coming.
Can you text on your phone?
Yeah, it's through
Okay,
the figure.
where's the little doohickey?
Do it.
Yeah, I know how to work it, as long as it works. The battery goes on.
Patience is a virtue.
That's not one of my
I'll
virtues.
slide it down.
Really? Really? It's a big surprise. All right, that's on. And everything else is, Katie, are we up in there?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody's got a grip? You up and running, Ann? Okay. We're going to open the HDC meeting of July 8th, 2014 at 5:03. Present are John McLaughlin, Ray Poole, Diane Coombs, Jason Leonardo Finger, Christine Glazer, Abby Camp, and Dawn Hill Holgate is not coming this evening, and Linda Williams, the chairman. We do have an audio tape running for this one, and we have a videotape running for this one, so if anybody else would like to tape the meeting, they have to let me know right up front. Seeing none, we will move on. There are a couple of changes on the agenda. I'm just looking for it now. All right. On old business, number 6, due to representation issues, has Seaver Family Trust has been asked to go to next week, so we're going to put that over to next week. Somebody make a motion to do that.
So
Diane's made a motion to put Seaver Family Trust over to the beginning of next week's meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
And Ray, let the record reflect that Ray has recused. So it is who's sitting?
You can just, oh. I guess it'll
Be 2 of you. Who's not? Let's go this way.
be.
Who's not sitting?
Not Christine will start.
Okay, no Christine on that one. Because it's going to be 2 of you, or one, at least one of you all night, depending on who's sitting.
So that was the board to adopt the agenda?
No, that was to move the Seaver off. And I believe that was the only special request that we had. Does somebody want to make a motion to adopt the agenda with that one change?
So moved.
Diane's made a motion to approve the agenda with that one change. All in favor? No.
Aye.
Diane?
Who's
not sitting?
Me.
But
Right? I'm not sitting.
Okay, so Christine's not sitting on the adoption of the agenda either. Okay.
I'm not going to be on the consent.
Okay. Public comment? Seeing none, we'll move past that. All right, we have a consent list.
Which I'm recusing from.
Okay, so you just don't have to sit.
So
Everybody else
Glazer
can
and Camp.
sit. Not necessarily. Ray, do you have anything? You cannot
I
sit.
do.
He cannot
I
sit.
can't.
So it is, just to make it more confusing for you, Ann,
Yay.
it's John McLaughlin, Diane Coombs, myself, Abby, and Christine. No Jason and no Ray. Does that do it?
So there's no alternates. We have Williams, McLaughlin, Coombs, Camp, and Glazer as the board.
Yeah. And just specifically state that both Jason and Ray are recused. Okay, somebody want to make a motion to approve those?
Motion.
Okay, Abby's made a motion to approve the consent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstaining? John?
Okay, yes, okay.
All right, so that was unanimous. Okay, we have consent with conditions. There are 3 of them. Mooney, North Atlantic, and Gallant. You want to make that motion per the conditions?
So moved.
Diane's made that motion per the conditions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that was John. Let's back that truck up. John, Ray.
I'm not vote. I did vote.
Are you abstaining? He's abstaining from the conditions. So that's Ray, Diane.
Christine and Abby.
No, he's still on it. He just abstained. So it's
Oh.
only one of you. Well, why didn't make it you? Because you sat on the ones before that.
Fine.
All right. So it's John abstaining, Ray, Diane, myself, and Abby. So it's 4 in favor, 1 abstention on the consent with conditions.
So
want me
the
to-
board is Williams, McLaughlin, Coombs, and Pohl, right?
And Abby.
And Camp.
And Camp.
John abstained.
And
Yeah.
who's my alternate then?
There wasn't one. John abstained, he didn't recuse.
Right.
So it's 4 in favor, 1, 4 to nothing. He abstained. Okay. So we'll move over to signs. Representing the sign committee.
Kevin Kuster.
Okay. Any movement on some of this stuff?
There is some. The first one on your agenda, 144 Cliff Road, has not responded yet, so I think we can just hold that one.
Hold on. What's the deadline on that?
I don't know. Are you asking me?
No.
I'm looking
No.
at it.
Okay, you want to go on to the others?
No.
I don't have it in here.
We'll look it up in the office.
Okay, because we may have to deal with that because Frank's been hanging around for a while. I
I
might have
emailed
to-
Izzy and told him.
I'll just go get Frank. Okay, Dalgard, Hansi had 2.
Yes, those are okay.
Both of them are okay?
Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve number 2 and number 3 for 63 Surfside Road?
So moved.
Diane's made a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next
Hold
one.
on. Who's the
I'll
alternate?
sit on all the signs just to make it,
Yeah.
if they're okay with it,
So
I'll just sit
Jason
on the
Leonard,
signs.
all right. And those are both approved and unanimously?
Nobody's refused.
No, that it was John, Ray, myself, Diane, and Jason was the alternate that was sitting.
And I'll be sitting on all.
Without Dawn, we're going to have an alternate on every single one of them.
Okay, so.
They'll have to work it out.
Williams, McLaughlin, Coombs, Pohl, and Jason as the main board. So
Right.
that's all we need?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any response from Nate?
You're talking about Sylvia?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so somebody make a motion
Hold.
to hold that.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jason's on all of these, hang on. Somebody make a motion to hold back rack 144 Cliff, we didn't do that. Diane, same motion?
Same motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Nantucket Boys and Girls Club?
That one has been approved.
Somebody make a motion to approve 61 Sparks Avenue, Nantucket Boys and Girls Club?
So moved.
How big is the mailer?
4x6. Canvas. Blue on white. Blue on white, dark blue on
The
white.
same colors as the Boys and Girls Club. Diane, who made that
There
motion?
is a precedent that's been
I
set
did.
with that, with the Athenaeum, so we thought it was
Okay.
approvable.
Jason made the motion to approve 61 Sparks Avenue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Island Bike is a notice that is not an application. It was a courtesy notice, so
That's not on there.
that's not on
All right,
for
so
you
that
for
comes
tonight.
off.
And number 7, that one has also been approved.
Somebody make a motion to approve Max Berry, Jason Bridges, 15 Washington Street.
So moved.
All right, Jason made that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Jason, wherever you are, you can leave. There are no 60-day denials. Ann and Katie are on top of those.
It's a notice, not a.
Then we have under discussion, which is something I wasn't familiar with at all. It came into the office. It's Mass DOT Pulpus Road Bike Path.
There's a correction on that, Madam Chair. It's
Yep.
Pulpus Road itself, not the bike path.
Pulpus Road.
Pulpus Road. And Mike Burns is here to represent that, if he's back.
Not back yet, so we'll hold that. We'll hold both of those for Mike Burns. And we'll go to old business. Thank you very much.
Okay, I have something to hand out relative to those, to one of those, and I don't need to stick around, but if you want me
We're
to,
just going to email him
I can. I'm representing them.
then. Or we're not taking any testimony right now.
Well, I'm
I'll
just-
hand them out.
Saying who it's coming from. This is
Okay.
coming from the Nantucket Historical Commission, and for your consideration. Thank you very much.
Don't comment.
We can wait for a little bit.
We're not commenting on this until Mike gets here. We open the hearing. We're not opening the hearing. We're going to go skip over it until Mike comes back for old business. James? 18 Blackfish. We go a little fast for you? I know.
He's just walking in the door, Linda, if you want to wait.
Well, we'll take it, James. Okay.
Last name, James, please.
Crap. Workshop APP.
Spell it.
KRAPP.
We have a board on this.
Yeah, but it wasn't really discussed, but it's Williams, Hill, Hillgate, Coombs, Pole, Camp. The alternate was Leonardo Finger and Glazer.
So it's LW, Ray Pohl, Diane Coombs, Abby Camp, and who?
Either Christine or myself.
Who's on it?
Alternates.
Who wants to
Two
be on it?
alternates.
No, Abby's on it. Who's alternate? Christine or Jason, who's on it?
Christine, Jason's on assignment.
Hold on, one person at a time, please.
I'm on it. It's fun.
I don't want to have what happened the last time. Myself, Ray, Diane, Abby, and Christine.
Yes.
Jason is the alternate, I guess. No John.
Right.
Okay. John, you're buzzing. The rest of my family, though. All right, we have previews and nothing, go. Go.
Just to speak generally, the next three items are part of a previously approved new dwelling. The second dwelling that we're looking at is more or less a garage that is just being called a second dwelling. There's a studio upstairs.
Is that what I'm looking at?
That's
right now?
correct.
What you need to do on your site plans
Cloud each one per.
is you need to cloud what the application is for. It's for the small building on the site plan on the lower left.
I got an arrow.
Arrow's not working for me.
Okay.
I need to cloud it, so we know which one we're talking about.
No problem. Essentially, trim to match the existing building. A small second-story deck for water views. Pretty basic trim. Pretty basic layout. Not much to say about it, frankly.
It's actually design. What a concept.
It's
Ray? Colors the map, I take it.
Some of the things that I would be most troubled by this application, I believe, are not visible. So I'm going to start with the north elevation, which is the elevation that faces the circle and I would believe would be the most visible elevation. I don't really have a lot of problem with. It's only when we get around the back, when you have this sort of somewhat bizarre hipped roof configuration that half laps the back gable, and then within that there's a door.
Don't show light fixtures next time.
Yeah, the light fixtures
I'll
are
show
a
the
problem.
light
No,
fixtures.
I'm kidding.
It's just that he's forced into them if they're on.
But I think that, so the,
If it's not visible, move on.
then I'm done. I mean, I think that I'm looking mainly at the north elevation, and the west elevation, I suppose, would be somewhat visible from the side, and that's not hugely objectionable either, so that's all I have to say.
It's very deep on the lot. There's not much to see.
Diane, any further concerns?
Yeah, I think there's too many windows in that dormer up on the west elevation.
Is it visible?
Well, we just discussed that we thought it was visible.
No, Ray said it was not visible, minimally visible, if at all.
Well,
And you can't see it dead on.
no, you can't see it dead on.
You can see the side of it, but you don't know what's in it.
Do you have photos there? Do you see photos?
So what's not, what the elevation is not?
The north elevation is the one that faces the circle. And a lot of the stuff got approved on this house when it was, 6 months ago? When it was approved because of the lack of visibility of anything but what faces the circle. Because the part where the deck is behind the house, the west elevation is back far enough with enough foliage that we couldn't get a dead-on sight on it, because by the time you can see it, you're around the other side of the circle. And so you really can't get a good eye on the three windows in it. So we have to maintain our jurisdiction here. But I do think there are many doors. I'm not sure you can see it. Diane, did you go?
Yes, I did. If if you only can see the north elevation, then that's it.
I would,
Is it Abby?
Yes.
Christine and Abby?
I agree with Diane. I think even though you may not see it, I think the 3 ganged windows would look better with just 2 directly over the ones on the first
Right.
floor. And I think that the east elevation, which I guess the neighbors would see, with the 3 French doors, that could be just, yeah, 1 French door with 2 windows on each side. I think it's accessible.
Understand, you have no jurisdiction whatsoever.
Well,
We've got to be careful of the
Linda,
comments
it's
about the
not
neighbor.
You said foliage. I don't think there's a lot of foliage.
But don't mention the neighbor's view of the house.
The west-
who's going to see
The
it?
west will have some
The neighbor has no
exposure.
standing
The
here
east will not.
for us. We cannot say visibility from the neighbor's property, because if somebody wanted to challenge us in court, they're going to win on that basis.
Well, those are my
Yes.
comments.
What about the land bank? Is that open to people?
Off the site to the south is all wetlands, it's all protected.
Yeah, there's no cutting there or anything down there.
Yeah, if you see on the front cover, you can see the large property that actually abuts Burnell, that's way deep, I can't remember the number of it, protects the entire lot. There's also a gigantic easement, T-shaped easement, that doesn't allow, it's a buffer between the neighboring properties, so no one can go back there.
I think it's the Wisconsin Trust, isn't it? Isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Part of it does, but it's in the corner. It's not a public path.
Did Christine go? Or did we get past her? Christine?
Christine agrees with everything that's been said and has nothing further to add.
The only thing I might add, James, is I do think the east elevation, given the simplicity of this structure, I think the east elevation with 3 French doors, it's a small dormer compared to some that we see. I don't see why a 100-square-foot interior needs 3 French doors facing the pool.
Would a pair be more?
I think a pair would be more in keeping, centered. Does anybody else have that?
Yes.
We're happy with that.
That it should be a single French door.
A single French door is not going to work.
Is it
It's
visible?
gonna look even more
I thought-
bizarre.
Neither is.
Well, with flanked by 2 windows, it's a
It's
possibility.
a typical situation on a balcony.
It just
It's
seems
a
excessive
programmatic.
as
It's a programmatic thing for me. Anytime you do a single door, you can't close. You can't keep it open.
No.
Which is why we always do
I
pairs or
think-
triples.
And then again, I'm
We're
going
trying
back to the fact that he's coughing up one of the French doors, even though it's not visible. So I'm okay with 2 French doors centered in that dormer. Over the other 2 French doors, obviously, that's probably where you're going.
I'm comfortable with making that a double.
And that's on, all that's on the east elevation, Ann? Sorry about that.
Motion to approve with 2 French doors.
On the
East.
second floor east elevation.
How are they going to be positioned
Centered-
in the dormer?
Centered over the other 2.
Two lower ones?
Centered over the lower doors.
Because they aren't now.
Abby's made a motion to approve with the east elevation, second floor, French doors reduced to 2, centered over the 2 French doors below.
With the balcony remaining the size as it is now?
Yeah, you only had to cut your corner of it. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any of the 2 staff? Any opposed? Okay, that is through staff, Ann.
Yes.
Thank you. I think the rest of it's all on the plan, but I never see it individually. There you go. 'Cause it's easier for Ann to keep, Katie to keep them together over there. Hardscape and cool. You get that motion, is that you, Ann? Go for it, James.
We're on the pool, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone has the purple application applying.
Oh, this is the wrong application.
So we want to just go into the meeting now.
All right, just want to, I don't want to mess you up because this is going out of order. This is the pergola application. I think we probably should send out the pool also, because they're sort of attached.
They're all in keeping with one another.
Yeah,
Um,
hold on. Let me come out.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, it's the same board, yeah. So go to the pool first, which is the one that just came out at you.
Essentially, we're presenting what is a 36 by 15 bluestone flushing grade pool with a spa. It's connected directly to a proposed pergola with an exterior fireplace. All of this is protected by the second dwelling and the main structure. Visibility will be 0.
And you have grass up to the coping on the sides?
We have grass up to the coping on both sides, and you'll notice that there is a large planted edge. As I mentioned in the previous application, there's a vegetative buffer easement in the back that is all natural plantings behind it. The fencing is a type 2 natural to weather, and then there's a wire on pressure treated for the back that's in the planting. So there's 2 fence types. Anything that's adjoining the house is natural to weather. Everything that's facing the easement or the wetlands or Wisconsin Land Trust is in plantings, in natural vegetation.
It's substantially, you are running the wire fence perimeter to perimeter?
Right.
I can't find it on the east, I don't know what's happening here. It's not called out very well, where this wire fence is. And I know that comments are going to come right at you, that you're running it right on the property line, so you cannot control both sides of your screening. And what we've been asking everybody to do is to pull all these fences in 5 feet so you control both sides of the screening. Because right now you're controlling your interior, but not your exterior, and you're running a wire fence right down this guy's driveway.
Correct.
Which is something we don't approve anymore, and haven't for a while. Does everybody share that concern?
Yes.
Yes.
I think everybody's okay with a 4-foot natural weather fence because you have to have it for the pool code. But when you start running it down driveways on both sides and you start running it around the perimeter, or right on the property line, you've got a problem, right?
The only thing I would say about the fencing that's a little anomalous is that it's 1 by 6, which is a wide board. I mean, I don't really have a lot of experience with that.
He's running a board fence as opposed to a type 2 picket.
I said type 2, it's
That's not a type 2 picket,
It's not
that's a
type 2.
board
I said
fence.
type 2, sorry.
Okay.
Natural reaction.
But, so we have approved boards that thick in the
Absolutely.
past? Okay.
It's a little odd.
How high is the holly and hankberry on the west elevation? Because that west elevation.
The one that runs down the neighboring corner.
That follows along the
I mean, our hope, if everything's in season, to get the at least 3 to 4 foot in keeping with the top of our
Well, cut to the
planting wall.
chase. Everybody's concerned about the perimeter wire. It doesn't seem to be embedded in enough stuff that we can actually control on this lot. And frankly, I think everybody would be more comfortable if you ran the wooden fence back to the garage or the cottage, ran it along the property line, and ran it up and met up with the house and did not run it perimeter, which would require holding for revisions. Is that where everybody's headed here?
Yes. It's got to be
Closer to
curtailed
the-
around the
You know,
pool,
like
not
this.
the whole property.
Like this? and
Well,
like this?
the only reason why, I understand the board doesn't approve that, nobody wants to subdivide the lot. It's just a very funky shaped lot that we don't have a lot of choice. I have no problem pulling
You
the
don't
wire
have to run it
fence
back
in.
here.
Well, I can certainly turn it left
Turn it.
behind the garage, but due to the easement in the rear and just the awkward shape of the lot, we don't get a lot of yard.
Well, they're not getting a lot of yard when they bring it in tight to the pool either.
No, I know, I don't have a choice because I
So then they can run
can't
it,
go
they
into
can
that
run that yard
space.
anywhere they want after that. But somebody want to make a motion to hold for revisions?
Hold for
To the
revisions
the
and,
fence, the pool's not an issue. And basically, the fence is the problem, right? Not
yes,
the fact that they've got a pool like every other house in that subdivision.
it has gates at the driveway and the fence goes across there. That's not something I could do.
All right, so Diane, you made a motion to hold for revisions?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll take a quick look at the other.
Can I give the applicant a note, observation? There's a door coming out of this garage right here, and there's literally no place for somebody to stand because they've run right into the fence coming out of that door.
It's centered, it's off the door in question.
So it's not right on that corner there?
It's very tight. It is
Okay.
tight. That's actually part of
Take a look at the
patio.
fence issue.
That 8-foot section.
Yeah,
That's not-
I mean, yeah, the fence issue would correct that.
Can I ask a question of the board? Is 5 foot the minimum? Because we can plant privet within 3 foot or
Well, we're
control.
not using privet as screening
wouldn't
for
use
the,
privet.
for the metal fences, the vinyl column fences, because privet isn't there 6 or 7 months of the year. This past winter, they didn't even appear to grow until probably the end of May.
Right.
So it's got to be something else. Or you've got to come in with a better screening plan about what really is around what can be, cannot cut, if you really want to continue to stay there. But I think this is where you need to go. The reason why the pergola and the fireplace were not on consent is because that fireplace is actually proud of the house, and that was not happening.
It's not attached?
It's back here on the pergola, in a pergola, but to the right of the house, where this goes off back down the road. It's going to stand up like a sore
You'll see right
thumb.
here.
Yeah, you've got a view corridor right to the freestanding
No, that's not that.
chimney.
A chimney coming out.
And it's a very odd chimney with a very bad slate top.
Unless it's a chimney for a warrant.
So I think, I'm not sure the pergola is an issue, if it's natural to weather, and I assume
Yeah.
that's what it is.
That's right.
It's the chimney that kept this off the consent list.
Are you suggesting that if it was pulled inboard in line with the other chimney, that
Way
it'd be?
behind the house. Yeah.
So then, you said tall?
I just need to get it 3 feet above the next burning thing, which is the pergola.
Which is the pergola.
It could
Oh, but it
probably
looks
be
like
pulled
it's
back.
well in excess of that.
It could be pulled down.
Yeah,
A little bit.
definitely.
It's 4.5 feet, 4.5 feet, we're almost 5 feet above the pergola.
The idea is to push it over so it's not visible between those
Yeah,
two
so somebody
houses.
make a motion to hold this for revision.
So
And
moved.
it's 5 feet above the pergola. You might want to take a look at that again. You only have to be 3.
Yep, correct.
All those in favor of Diane's motion to hold for revisions?
Right.
Thank you. There's a plan in the middle of the table that has to go back.
It's mine, sorry.
Mike, are you back?
Kind of.
I know this is where you really want to be. Come on up. That was unanimous.
That's not the path, that's the road. It's what was right.
You got the Mass DOT thing also?
Yes.
Are we gonna do the Pulvis Road first?
Yep.
Oh, she has copies. Hey, John?
Yeah, Katie made copies. Is this the same thing as that?
Yeah.
What's this?
I can keep going, it's all the same thing, isn't it?
Is everybody going to discuss
The
this?
Mass DOT's coming this way, and that other thing is going that way. We're talking about this one right now, DOT, which is the smaller piece right in front of you.
HSTAT had some concerns.
On that DOT one?
Correct.
Okay.
On the north elevation, maintaining a rural character of the road is essential. 3-foot gravel shoulders are not appropriate, and the yellow reflectors are urban.
Hold on, 3-foot gravel shoulders?
Are not appropriate,
Yeah.
and
what was
the
the
yellow
other one?
reflectors are urban.
I haven't had a chance to look at this thing. Yeah, well, hang on a second, you're gonna give a presentation, because I have no clue where this stretch is. I have no idea what's going on here. I know the other one, but this DOT thing is relatively new to us, because we didn't get it from him until this week. So,
We're reviewing this right now.
yes, we have a Popus bike path. Is this an extension of the Popus bike path to some place that we don't know?
Not at all.
What is this?
It's actually a resurfacing of Pulpus Road itself. You might recall last summer, a half-mile section of Pulpus Road was resurfaced from Drew Lane to just north of North Pasture. I think you're all driven and you might have seen that section there. Pavement markings were improved, and the center line had better visibility added with these reflectors on the center line for safety.
Oh, did they put the reflectors in the yellow?
Next to the yellow.
Just like in Milestone.
So what this project does is propose extending that half mile further down the road from just north of North Pasture up to Fulling Mill Road. And just to clarify on the shoulder issue, it's meant to be a maximum of 3 foot. I think if you notice the existing shoulders now, there's some gravel that's placed on the edge of the road to get the edge of the road to grade to where the pavement is. This is additional pavement added to an additional paving structure. So I think in order to get the grades correct, they've listed that as a maximum of 3 foot shoulder, but it's basically as needed, and it'll replicate what was done last summer, which I think we all recognize that it wasn't a 3 foot clearing at the edge of the road, but just some supplemental gravel added to the edge of the road to bring the grade up.
Would this be something that if you need a letter of support from us? Is that what you're asking for?
I think
comment letter?
The comment letter would be fine. I think it's just being solicited for any concerns or comments.
Well, it certainly would be on the shoulder issue.
Well, if it's not 3 feet, then the letter has to say that. The application has to say that, or
It has to
else
say
they're going to
match.
clear 3 feet
Right.
on either side.
It has to match what was done last summer.
And I as an HSAP, we didn't feel that. I don't think the reflectors are just not necessary. It ruins the character of Pulpus Road, and I think it's very obvious. It's much more pleasant once you get through the new paving part and you don't see those reflectors anymore.
Right.
I don't think they're appropriate. We haven't had them for as long as Pulpus Road has been there. I don't think they're necessary, and that's what HSAP help.
Usually, at least on the mainland, they only use those reflectors if they've got a curve or something, rather than have to make people aware of, and that's a straight shot. So I would not recommend putting those reflectors in. We're supposed to try and keep the town as indigenous as possible.
So the concern I'm hearing from the two of you is that the reflectors in the road, even though they're obviously for safety purposes, they are not in keeping with the rural character. Is that where
Right.
you're
And
going?
they're not
Yes.
necessary.
And they're not necessary on the straightaway.
Is that the same thing you guys feel?
I agree with HSAP.
Okay, so that's pretty unanimous. That's pretty unanimous on the lack of a 3 foot thing. Okay, what was the other issue?
The shoulder?
That's it.
Shoulder.
Yeah, I got the shoulder. The shoulder and the reflectors. Is there anything else? No, we're not dealing with the surface.
Treating.
We have no jurisdiction. John?
Treating. Is that part of it? There was some comments on treating.
On what?
He's talking about the next project.
Oh, we're not on that, John.
That's the next one. Next one.
We're on that.
That's one I have. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so is that something you need a memo from us for? That we're
I
concerned about
would
that?
direct it to who's ever listed as the contact in the letter.
Stacy Donahue?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something you want me to do, is express the concerns about, make sure it's no wider than the other one that they did last summer?
Right.
Well,
And that the reflectors are not in keeping with the rural character of the road?
Okay, but no, I think
more specifically, it says that it's not going to widen the existing pathway. However, it will do these 3-foot gravel shoulders, so what is that going to do?
How do we,
Specifically?
based on what happened last summer, how do we couch that language?
It's something that I've already brought to the attention of the project designer at the state, and they've sent a communication to the Stacy Donahoe, and it's just an error in the project description. It's not really the intent of the shoulder.
Right, but it has to be in black and white, though, that, right now, this is what they're gonna, this is what they want. So I think it needs, any errors,
Need to
whether
be
from the
mentioned.
town or the state, need to be corrected so that we have a correct
A
proposal.
specific letter.
Okay, what's the language that you used with her to correct this 3-foot thing? Did you arrive at a language that it's no more than 6 inches, or that it's exactly the same as last summer? How did you correct her?
I'd have to go back to look at that, but the essence of it was adding a gravel shoulder to have the edge of road meet the edge of pavement meet the existing grade of the roadway, and a maximum of 3 feet was used. I mean, like
When you told her 3 feet's not happening,
no.
what did you tell her was going to happen? What could happen?
Only the amount of gravel
Necessary.
necessary to bring the existing grade up to the edge of pavement.
I think maybe we should say not to exceed X inches.
Do you have any idea what the median width was from the ones last year? I know it varies depending
I
on where
believe
it
in the
is.
email that when I pointed out the error, I believe I used 1 to 2 feet.
Okay.
Also, Linda, the type of gravel, it's not that sharp granite gravel, is it? It's more the pea stone or the large pea stone?
It's what's existing now. I don't know the spec. I think it's a 3/4 inch granite gravel.
We're not here for that.
Isn't that part of this?
Yeah, it says gravel
meters.
shoulders.
I just want to know what kind of gravel, because there are some sort of sharp granite chips, or I don't know what they are.
We don't have jurisdiction over that. What we can say as a matter of concern is that the gravel matched the gravel that was used previously.
Well, that's what I'm worried about, that it might be that same.
We've already been told in a court case, vis-a-vis Martin's Lane, that we don't have control over roadways and what they surface it with or anything else. So they are willing to work with us. We can only push it so far as to whether it's a 3/4 inch gravel or the 1/8 inch, the half inch was what they're proposing for the bike path, versus some other kind of gravel. We're not telling them what color, we're not telling them they can't use it. They
And-
don't have the right to do that.
This isn't like the gravel that's going on the bike path.
No, that's
This
the
is a
half
gravel
inch.
that's a substrate for an asphalt paving.
Right, that's the half inch,
1/4 inch.
quarter inch
Or less.
gravel, that's different. That's almost bordering on the stone dust.
Mm.
It's
No,
being ground into
It's
it.
chunkier than that.
It's a little
It's out there.
chunkier, but
I
it's a smooth surface
Yeah,
when it's
yeah.
done. So what they're asking, so what we want to go back to them with, we can't go down the rabbit hole on this one. What we're asking them to do is no more than 1 to 2 feet, and as minimal as possible to match what they did last year for the shoulders, to meet the grade with the pavement. And the reflectors are not in keeping with the rural character of the road,
Right.
correct? Do you want me to draft that? Do you want to relay that? We need to put it in writing
We
from
need to
us.
put it in writing it
Okay.
from the HDC, I
All
believe.
right. Does somebody want to make a motion for me to write the memo and sign it and give
So-
it to them?
So moved.
May I make a comment?
It really isn't part of a public hearing, but if you've got a quick comment?
Yes, Lucy Dillon, Bassett Road. I believe last year that they graded down the road. They do a recycling thing for asphalt, so I'm not sure what about building up the grade to meet the road. I think the road is taken down. Also, I agree with what the commission has said about the reflectors. And I also have a question is last year that I noticed that there were crews putting in Belgian block aprons on some of the driveways where in the stretch of the road where the work was done. My question is, were those aprons pre-existing or was that part of the job? Because I don't think they were in keeping with the rural character.
Any idea?
A different technique was used for resurfacing Pulpus Road last time. It was basically just patching or shimming the existing paved surface, and then 3 inches, I believe it was 3 inches of asphalt was added to the existing paving, so there was no milling. Some techniques require some milling of about a half an inch of the surface, and then paving over an inch and a half of asphalt. That's not what was done. The existing pavement along Pulpus Road is very thin. So this was in an effort to add structure to the roads.
Do you have any idea about the Belgian block?
It was removed and reset.
It was removed and reset? Okay.
That's the second dwelling approval thing that the owners have to do.
Or they already had them. The only reason you add, if you have a house predating 1998, you didn't have to do the aprons.
Right.
If you built a secondary dwelling after the house was built in 98, then the secondary dwelling does require only onto a paved road, not a dirt road. So some of them do, several of them actually have secondary dwellings out there, so they would have had to put in a more recent. And if they took it out in order to do the road, they would have had to put it back.
Yeah, a lot of the removing and resetting was to bring the apron up to the existing grade of the
You want
new
me to
grade
add
of the
to this
surface.
memo, no new aprons?
Yeah.
Private dwellings. If they're coming out and going back in, it's replacement in kind, we don't see them. But no new aprons on driveways that don't already have them.
I can't imagine these guys are going to be supplying Belgian block aprons.
I can't either. We're talking the state.
That's largesse.
All right, so I'll add that.
I'll take one.
So Diane, I'll take another one. It's falling apart. My road's falling apart. Diane, you made that motion for me to
Yes.
do it and then give it to them. All those in favor?
Aye.
John? Who's no? Only 5 can vote at a time. Who's the alternate on it?
The two, Christine can be the alternate.
Okay, so Christine's on this. All that was unanimous. Okay, now go on to your favorite project.
Okay.
You have a letter that I sent to all you guys by email. I just gave you another copy of, with more supporting information. I don't want to spend an hour on this. We are not the board that's deciding whether this project is going to happen or not. There's no formal application before us. Again, it's a transportation issue on town property, which they've weighed in that we don't have control over. But they're working with us in order to give us a voice and get this as right as we can get it. We're not the board that's telling them they can't have it or it's not appropriate. We need to get on the bus or get out of the way, because it's going to happen for the most part, whether we like it or not. What we have to do is make sure it's the best damn bike path on the railroad trestle on the planet. So that's what we need to discuss. You want to add where this came from?
Sure. I was asked by the Board of Selectmen to draft a letter to consider at a meeting which is scheduled for tomorrow night to address some of the concerns that have been previously voiced by this commission. Based on the meeting I had last week with the group, I had drafted some design changes that would be that the Board of Selectmen could request of Mass DOT to consider. First of all, it's the commission voted for the chip seal treatment for the specification to be
Medium, light gray, medium gray.
approved later. Medium gray color with I guess the exact specific specification we brought back to the HTC once the contractor is selected so that the specific aggregate be chosen. But essentially, that technique was approved by this commission. I included that in the letter, as well as there was also some comments about the splitter islands at either end of the railroad berm path. Are recommending that those be removed, along with the concrete and rubber detectable warning panels at the ends of the path, and replaced with, I believe the commission had said, a Belgian block treatment. If I could, on page 1, 2, 3, 4, on the 6th page in, I'm sorry, not 6th, 7th page in, there's some examples. Okay. examples of what the splitter island would look like. And again, it's being replaced with a treatment similar.
And that's the one on Cliff Road, isn't it?
This is on, just right out front on Fairgrounds.
Oh, right here.
So it'd be a wider apron or threshold that would be used for to achieve the objective of the ADA accessibility, providing a color and a textural variation from the path to be a good indicator for those kind of visual impairment or whatnot of an intersecting road. So that's being recommended as well. There are also there was some concern about the benches, and they'd be wooden, and I've used the specification or added the specification of what's used by the land bank. And I guess what was more concerning was a backrest on the bench, and that was it's being suggested that be removed, and that just a flat bench be used so that all the views can be appreciated from all the directions. So that's just a brief summary of what's in the letter. I guess the action that's being requested of this commission is a recommendation for the Board of Selectmen to support the letter.
Ray?
Love the presentation, I think the visuals really help me understand, what's getting approved and the compromises that have been made. 3-rail, 2-rail, the Belgian block apron, love that. There's no picture of the bench, but so it has been decided that a backless bench is fine. Correct?
Correct.
Correct. So you have in this, the first visual is these 3 types of aggregate, and I understand that you had a conversation with some members of the, what is the other organization?
That's not in here. That's not part of our discussion.
Not at all?
No. They have a separate jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction is separate from theirs. We have
Okay.
it, and
So-
it's on the record. But their jurisdiction is nothing to do with our jurisdiction.
And are they weighing in on this as well?
Yes, separate.
Yes.
Okay. So are we being asked to choose then of these 3, or these 3 examples of?
I believe it was recommended last week was just the technique of a chip seal. I had brought the one that's in the middle there as just an example. I found some other examples. Again, it was decided that we would come back. Again, once a contractor is selected, they usually bring samples for approval by the town.
That
HTC
would be extremely helpful.
We can consult with HTC on that and see if there's one that everybody there's some consensus of which one is preferable. But again, these are just here for example purposes.
The one in the middle is the one that we saw
Yeah.
last week.
That's too dark, I think.
No, it's too dark. But
Yeah.
the aggregate in left and right is something the DPW doesn't want anything to do with. It's not stabilized. It moves. People are much happier with the one in the middle because it tends to stick to itself. These 2 are going to move all over the place, and they're not. One on the right is not handicapped.
I'm responding to the color, not necessarily
Yeah, the
to the
color.
texture.
Yeah, what looks the most like the stone does, like the original path?
Probably the one on the. I'm sorry, which one?
The original path, what it looks like now, it looks just like,
There is an original path. It was
I
a
mean, what
railroad
the
track.
path, what exists now?
Right.
That's sand.
Dirt and dirt.
Sand.
That's what, I want the more naturalistic.
Looks most like
I mean, you can take a look at the picture that's in the presentation.
that.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what
Looks, which is gray.
Do you want, should I go next?
It's a mix of silt and sand.
Graham?
That was Abby's question, excuse me, to
Sure.
correct everyone's misnomer here. She was asking what material looks most like the existing sand and dirt path that is.
Well, it isn't going to be a material. It's going to be
It's
a
not.
color.
Just asking that.
I think the guidance that was given to me at the time was that a medium gray color be used for a material. So that's kind of what I was going after when I was looking at a different aggregate. If it's an alternative color, then this could be something that's discussed
Okay.
at a later date.
Do we have to pick the 2-rail?
2-rail fence they can do as a matter of right.
Yep. The benches are good without backs or arms. I don't think we need to have a splitter brought out to that extent, I think it's,
Well, they're not proposing that now, they're
Yeah, that's
proposing the
gone.
Belgian block.
well, I don't want a Belgian block, I don't want one at all, you're asking my opinion. And as far as the surface of the bike path is concerned, that is under consideration. We have got several different kinds, and it's been found that we can use a soft surface. So
Who said you can use the soft surface?
State.
state said we can use a soft surface. It's used in other
What
bike
kind of soft
paths.
surface?
I beg your pardon?
They don't want a soft
Who
surface
doesn't?
going into the creeks. It'll move into the creeks.
No more than the other one will, so
What kind of soft surface? That's the first we, as the commission, are hearing this. We cannot bring in stuff from another entity into this board. What kind of soft
I
surface?
can bring in a thing that I look up, whether
Right,
it's
once
another
you look it
entity
up.
or not.
What soft surface? We have no information in front of us on that. What is a soft
It
surface?
can be sand, it can be whatever has been proposed and put down on other bike paths that go across railroad beds.
It cannot be sand for handicap accessibility.
There is on the state's website, and I believe Diane brought paper with her last week to Thursday's meeting, and she doesn't have it anymore because you took it and said we would talk about it at this meeting. There are things that were done that have opened up within the state that will allow communities to choose their surfacing on the rails, trails, the old railroad beds being turned into bike paths that do not have to be this aggregate or other things. It is up to, they have given the towns more leeway onto what they want to use. And there are other things, in some cases sand, that are, as long as it's basically like the path that exists now, that are fine with ADA. And it is, I don't remember the title of it. It's something on, it's the state, it's approved by the state, it's through MassDOT.
It's their Mass
don't
Central
need to-
Trail Rail, Mass
We don't need to
Central
do this
Trail Rail.
chip seal.
Yeah, it's not
I can address the different surface material. I mean, there's what's called a greenway, which is a natural surface and is more applicable for trails and parks and forest environments. And there's a hard surface, which is recommended for if you need a number of users and the user type, then it's recommended that you go with a harder surface. So I think there's some confusion about what environment that's applicable for a soft surface, and I think with the again with the maintenance concerns and the volume of users and the type of users that at least staff isn't going to recommend that a soft surface be used. That's something that's planning and public works. The town engineers kind of recommended against it, but it's something that could be requested, I'm sure. But it's again it's the grading burden on the DPW is such that it would have to be graded 4 or 5 times a year. The cost of doing that and whatever material is part of that would have to be replaced routinely. And again, it's one thing to be adamant and request the state they consider it because it's in their guidebook to use it. But I think with the volume and type of users that it wouldn't be supported, and they would go with an ideal surface.
One at a time, please.
You have been so responsive and so gracious to this board, and you have addressed all of our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would hope that maybe we could just explore one last option for what the actual path looks like. Would that be okay?
What's the proposal?
To consider some of these other substances that are listed on the state's
Just
other
a-
possibilities.
Answer it. I already got the answer.
I would recommend against the soft surface, just as staff advising the different boards, just as this board advises. So that wouldn't be something I would recommend. I think the chip seal surface with this, not going with the asphalt, it's a nice compromise. I think it addresses the maintenance concerns of other town departments and the costs associated. And not just that, but the users of the path too. There's no one here that I think are advocates, bike advocates, so they can't really comment on this. But keep it, going with the surface that we're recommending is something that we want to stick with. I don't think we want to deviate from that.
Yeah, the believe me, I do understand, but what I'm concerned about is that this chip seal is really gonna not be an attractive color, and it's going to be an eyesore in the wetlands, and so perhaps a mix of gravel and stone dust of some kind that's been pre-tested in other environments might be worth considering.
The guidance I got from this board was a medium gray. Is that a different recommendation now?
I mean, what I see here listed in here is just not really very biblical.
Okay. Again, what was agreed last week was that some specifications or examples can be brought and some advice can be sought from this group once a contractor is selected and a source is found, and then an aggregate could be picked at that time. Right now, we're just going with the technique. I think that was really the compromise that was trying to be reached.
Thank you, comment. 25 minutes later. I feel that there's about 46 miles of bike path in Brandon right now. If I'm right.
32.
32.
32-ish.
Anyway, out of it, I think just tell them, recommend them, if ever all bike paths are the same thing, put in here across the railroad track, put the same thing used everywhere else, that's all. Forget about all this, taking this other stuff. Tires, man, that's all, asphalt, use asphalt, match it.
Interrupt while he's talking.
That's it, that's my opinion,
Okay.
say match it.
I just want to say that I think this is not like the regular bike path that you're going to Wisconsin on. This is through the creeks. It's very natural. I'm in favor of this. I think it's a great idea, but I haven't seen the pavement that I would vote yes on. Yes, yet.
When we're not being really asked to vote on the color or the or that particular aggregate. They've asked you to explore why the other soft surfaces don't work in the creeks on an elevated railroad bed. So they want you to make that call and get that information so we can dispense with it one way or the other. And then see if you can't come up with something a little closer. But he's not asking us for the final on the color. He's asking us, is this chip seal the direction we want to go?
No. No.
You know, I'm a little concerned about.
I'm concerned they're going to roll right over you.
Okay, the language that's being used, because if you look at the first page of this document dated July 9th.
Which one?
The thick one.
From the
thick one, on the first page. It talks of, and then you go back, you're going back to the modification of the surface color of the hot mix asphalt.
Where are you now?
Where it gives you, provides you the example.
Yep.
It says, recommendation of chip seal or, in quotes, sand seal. And I wonder if we're getting lost in language here, because sand seal sounds a lot better than chip seal.
Yeah, it's the size of the aggregate. It's really the
It's whether it's 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch.
or smaller.
Or
Yeah.
smaller.
Once you get to a finer aggregate, it's basically the same technique. Again, it's still rolling a stone over either a resin or an asphalt emulsion,
Yeah.
and then rolling that aggregate into the so that you see the stone, not necessarily what's binding it to the surface.
Sand seal is still not referencing the color. It's referencing the size of the aggregate.
Mm-hmm.
So he says he's bringing the aggregate back to us once they figure out who's going to do it, and they can get a mix and they can show
We gotta
us what
source
it
it,
is.
yeah.
We can get a source.
Okay, well, I think we're moving really well, and maybe we should just wait until you bring us back more aggregate, and perhaps in the meantime we can.
Well, they're not going anywhere with anybody bidding on an aggregate. What they need to do is you need to either say that the soft surface is possible, that I feel myself is not,
It's being used in other places in Massachusetts.
but they are not used in the middle of the creeks on an elevated railroad bed.
You don't
Yes, they are.
know that. They're being used on
That's
railroad
what he's
beds, and
asking.
most of the time, railroad beds do go through watered areas
But they're at
because
grade.
they're out of the way. Not necessarily. Western Massachusetts,
Fine,
no.
we understand that. But I'm telling you right now, they will ignore everything if we take a position that is not advisable by the town engineers, the state engineers, the Army Corps of Engineers, and our own transportation staff. So
Well,
Mike
put
has
a
agreed to
mask on,
go
it's
off
fine.
and take a look at that document. You have a copy of it.
Again,
And
I
make
would say
the
that there is.
Make the inquiries about why or why not the soft surface is not advisable in this specific location. Nobody's saying it's not used elsewhere. We're talking about a very specific location.
I think that the design guidebook that's being referenced, where this material is being pulled from, also specifies the environment in which that's to be applied. And again, it's a park environment, forest environment, conservation land area. I think this is something that's intended to provide a route for bicyclists in and out of town. It's going to be a busy area for
Rail
a lot.
trails, I just want to clarify, rail trails are for bicyclists, joggers, people in wheelchairs, strollers, and that's what the rail trail they're doing from like Northampton to Boston. That's for all different kinds of users going through all different kinds of areas. They're using gravel, they're using stone dust, they're even using porous pavement. So I think there are other options that we're not seeing for this project.
I'm not in favor of stone dust at all. It's not stable. It needs to be redone over and over and over again, which is going to cause more destabilize the area that it's in. But you need to come up with a reason why the other surfaces cannot be used or can be used in this particular instance. That's what they're asking you for.
I think at this point, we can do that, and I will probably act on behalf of the selectmen if that's something that they would recommend. I think what we're seeking from this group is they voted last week, or you all voted last week that the chip seal was a nice compromise. The slide that was drafted, I guess what we're seeking is maybe support that those concerns were addressed in the letter, and recommended the Board of Selectmen approve that.
And as far as removing the 4-foot Belgian block strip, Diane, that's required because it's...
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the splitters.
The splitters are gone, but you also said
But
you didn't want the
they have
Belgian block.
pictures of the splitters
No.
in Belgian block.
Here.
Yes, they do.
But they're
They
not
do,
using
but that's
those.
under the
That's
no
not what
column.
they're using.
Here,
That's
I know,
under
I
no
know what you're
column.
thinking, because I saw the
Let's
same
move
thing.
past that. The one on
I'll
the
show you.
right is what they're
Hang
doing,
on.
where it says recommended.
So they say, there's a thing that says don't do, and see, not recommended. That's the splitter.
Yep,
This is what they want to do. This is basically right
Right up
outside
front.
the window there.
right.
So this just tells you that you're coming up to a road,
But-
you got to stop. If you're on a bike.
Or
It
site
just
impaired.
tells you, yeah.
It has to be a change in surface. At least it's not the orange
Is that what
ones
you
and
meant?
the red ones that we see.
Are there any reflectors going for this stretch?
No.
You said there's no lighting. So where are we here? The selectmen are going to meet on this on Wednesday and do what they're going to do. Right?
I'm in favor of everything that you've modified in this proposal. And the only question mark I have is, this idea that's been brought forth in the last 7 days about the fact that there are, soft solutions. I don't know what they might be. I bike on stuff, and I can't bike on gravel. I fall over.
And a
So-
wheelchair can't move on gravel.
Yeah, but look, I'm not the expert on this material, so I think that some more information on that and what's feasible and what's not would be helpful to this board anyway. I think that's pretty obvious.
Selectmen are doing whatever they're going to do on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's either we give them the majority of the board, there's only 5 can sit on this. So John, myself, and Ray are sitting on this, Diane is sitting on this, and an alternate is sitting on this. So who is sitting on this for the purposes of making a vote? Jason. Ray. John. W. Jason. Okay. Everybody was allowed to comment because it's sort of a generalized discussion, but for purposes of a vote, whether we support this letter as written to the selectmen, does somebody want to make that motion?
Or with some edit.
Or what?
If you wanted to deviate and make a small edit or something.
That's or an edit somewhere. But I think one of the edits, just to allay some of the other comments, I think the splitter you dealt with, the split rail fence we've dealt with, the benches we've dealt with. I think the chip seal issue, I think maybe a comment about, if possible, a soft surface.
Or just a different type, I think, would give them a bigger choice.
Well, they've already done the different type of thing. You're specifically talking about soft surfaces. They can't just leave it open-ended. Because last week we did have a sense of the meeting that chip seal was a good compromise, especially the very small
No, I thought we had a discussion, if you want to go back really, that we discussed that it was too dark
Yes.
and all this stuff, and
We know it's too dark, Diane. We said that to them, and they said they would come back with the aggregate for our approval when they got the aggregate together.
if they have the aggregate, what is the harm of trying to look at something else than one choice other than having it paved? This is going through a historic district. I think we can spend enough time to look at a couple of choices. That's what I think. I'm not trying to say it can't be done. I just think we have enough time. This has been put off. It's not under a do it tomorrow, otherwise you lose it anymore, that we...
Just as a clarification.
Yeah, you better clarify.
We are on a pretty tight
Yes, we are
timeline
on
on this. I
time.
mean, both historical agencies were solicited back in 2011 for
But they-
comments. And this is, I mean, we're right now, we would like to have the project advertised by the end of this calendar year in December. In order to meet that, we basically need some direction right now on the surface. And that's really the degree of urgency, is to meet that advertising date.
And they have funding that's being tied up at the state under the TIP fund and DOT, required that they put it in the report to encumber the funds.
I thought that the Mass Historical Commission said that had to stop. It had to be put on hold for a year.
It's going into the next rotation for funding, but you can't endlessly hold that either, because that's coming into the next fiscal
Right,
year.
but the Mass Historical Association.
We're not trying to kill it by holding it up.
No, but what I'm saying is the Mass Historical Commission put the brakes on it. So it's not like there is any rush because they said put the brakes on it.
There is a
for
rush
years,
because of the funding cycles.
Well,
With the language I'm suggesting that you add, is if possible, a soft surface would be requested to be investigated,
that's fine.
Yeah,
okay?
that covers it.
Yes, I just think we ought to look at all sides. If
And-
we're going to be partly
As
responsible.
opposed to the chip seal, is that where I'm going?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Can we
just-
add that?
I mean, you wouldn't want it to be,
If I could just
you would
clarify.
want to go through and have it be an eyesore, like a big black ribbon of something and have
Which
the
is
public-
what the state can do if we don't start working.
Okay, we got it, but
Yeah,
I-
We're
We got that,
working.
okay?
I think, Linda, if I could just reference the original comment letter that the HDC submitted.
Yep.
It says, it obviously said if a preferably softer, more natural surface is not used, then the HDC is asking for consideration to be paid to a negative visual impact using some kind of color aggregate or something. I think this whole, if a natural surface isn't used, then a chip seal as presented is preferred, rather than this adding a color aggregate, some kind of paint. I think is it safe to say that that's really the language that you want to use that kind of replicates what you had originally put in your original comment letter?
Which is in the back of your packet, by the way. So,
if I understand correctly, it's the same language.
Yeah, it is. You just said
The-
exactly what Linda just said.
and I wrote that, and you all agreed to it, and that's what went to.
I think, no, the original letter was an additive, be added to the asphalt, like some
Yeah,
chemical
the
or
only
something
thing
like
we had
this.
at the time was that they do that, but we didn't know about that chip seal on top.
The treatment that's been suggested, and again, that was approved by this group last week, was a chip seal with an aggregate to be selected at a future date.
But we didn't know at that time that a soft surface has been used on other railroad bike paths.
We are
That's all
going-
I'm saying, is we
Okay.
look into it.
I have that language, we're gonna go
Thank you.
chasing our tails over and over and over again, which is pointless, and we wasted time last week, and we need to stop it now. So the point is, they've dealt with the benches, they've dealt with the splitters, they're dealing with the materials, and we're adding the language, even if it's redundant, we're adding the language, if possible, a soft surface would be requested to be investigated as opposed to a chip seal.
And you got the two rail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all
So does
set.
somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Diane's made that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
John?
Opposed.
Opposed to what? They're not going to pave it. They've agreed to the chips, the state has agreed to the chip seal. So you're opposed to the bike path?
No, I think you just, we wasted 40 minutes.
I know.
Just go ahead and
Last
tar
week it was the same
If
thing.
all the rest of they got here,
All
all
right,
tied.
John, they're not going to tar it. They're going to do it much softer
I know what
through
I've read
through
it
the
through.
creeks. So are you in favor of the compromise, which is the chip seal?
The chip seal, yes.
Okay. So Ray's in favor, I'm in favor, John's in favor. Diane, you were in favor with that language added?
Yes, with
And
that language.
Jason?
As long as that language is added.
Okay. There you go. So do I need to do a separate memo here again, or do you have it?
If you want to send something to me
Okay.
and copy Erica.
Is that part of your motion, Diane?
Yes,
That
I
I do
would
a
like-
separate memo, and then I'll send it to him?
You make,
Copy Erica.
I gotta get it to him before Wednesday.
right, you write the letter, and,
Yep.
and I recommend that you sign it.
Okay, and that's
I
to
can-
Erica or to you?
You can send it to both of us, and I'll confirm.
Okay, so it's BOS and
Down here.
you.
Correct.
Okay, that was unanimous, Ann, if you could follow that one.
All right, we're all set?
Yep.
Thanks.
Where are we now?
Budget, no.
John, it happened last week. Suzanne O'Toole. Is Luke, Carrie, you're here? Now we gotta start moving.
Sounds good to me.
Representing the applicant,
Carrie Thornwell?
Hello.
Hello.
we have a board on this?
No, it's new.
Okay, so it is John, Ray, Diane, myself, and who's on this now? Christine, are you back? Abby? Okay. And alternates are Jason and Christine. Run with it.
It's a garage dwelling on a property. The house exists. There's some photos of the house. There's a little building there now that got a demo approval, and it's kind of mimicking the house. We're trying to show the shortest end towards the street and minimize the garage. There's not much to say, I don't think.
There's a 20% differential between the two of them. The reason this was not on consent, because it's a fairly standard looking structure, is because of the hip elements, which don't work with the structure at all. And the deck, which is humongous on a big dormer and not set into the roof. You can see the scuppers and everything, it's not set into the roof enough. So it was primarily that dormer and that deck and the hip, which doesn't work on this structure at all. So that's why this did not, though it's simple, in fact, it didn't go to consent. John?
No comment.
Okay. Ray?
Linda, I agree with you about the hip, but I'm wondering what the alternative might be.
Shed, straight across it.
Oh,
It's not, I don't think it's too deep for a shed, I
Yeah.
think.
And that's one of the
Um,
problems.
But I tend to agree with you, actually. But maybe we just do a lower pitch gable, so maybe we can keep a 6 light below it.
Because this doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I
You mean-
agree.
You mean the gable would be taller than the
Yeah,
hip,
so then we just get a
keep a
little
6
6 light
light
above
up
there.
there.
It's a bathroom. But if we
Oh,
did a
oh.
lower pitched roof
Just made it a gable.
on
coming
that,
off the front.
yeah, just a lower gable.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diane, all right, somebody motion to hold for revisions.
And set the deck in, we can still do somewhat of a deck.
That dormer is humongous.
The dormer is humongous.
I don't
I'm
under,
trying to sort of figure it out.
it's humongous, it's off compared to the other one, but it's too big. And it
Okay,
should be
maybe
a
set it
single
back.
door, it should be a smaller dormer, it's too high, it's almost just right off the ridge.
Okay, maybe we can set it
So
back.
something's gotta happen here, and it's gotta go into the roof.
And the north elevation, is that window above the
It's gonna
roof
move.
that's going to be revised, is going to move up? Okay.
It'll become
Yeah.
smaller.
Just a little 6 light.
Mm.
And that and the deck and the dormer we're talking about is on the west elevation.
Okay, huge deck and big dormer.
Yeah, and it's not set in enough.
Okay.
And then the hip on the north elevation, hip addition for the garage is not working. You can see that on the east as well. Somebody want to make a motion? Diane, you made a motion.
Motion
for
to hold.
revisions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Diane's back. Diane, who made the motion, Diane?
I did. Good question.
Desert Island,
That's me.
you're doing this one?
Oh, thank you, Lynn. I don't have 700 pockets.
Yes.
There's no comments.
Hold on. I don't have any financial involvement with our old house, but I'm not sitting on this.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm,
Do you want me to?
so,
Chairman?
Diane, you want to chair?
Okay.
So who's going to be on this? I need it for them.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Don,
Hi.
Ray,
Christine.
Christine, and
1, 2, 3, 4.
Abby, or
And
Jason.
Jason.
You sat on it before. Okay, representing is Carrie. So you all come get me when you're done.
Okay, you want to, do we have any remarks?
There was no comments, but there was a thing board, there was no comments, so I don't know how that works.
What was the sitting board?
It was Williams, Pohl, Coombs, Camp, Glazer, for the purposes of continuing without further discussion. And the alternate was another thing, but there's no comments, so I don't know if that was just a cut and paste. or comments.
Yeah, because we haven't heard it, and
Right.
I don't believe Linda
Right.
would have sat on it.
Exactly.
So I think we're all set on that. So you want to say what your proposal is?
Please, thank you. This is an existing building. Obviously, it was Linda's family's house, I think. Originally, they came in and got some approval for the work. Since then, we've taken over and revised the plan. We want to propose the front of the house is now the front of the house. We're putting the front door and porch and little mass, if you see on the north elevation, it's the west elevation, it's facing the street. Originally, they approved a side entry. If you can, it's a little bit complicated. On the other, the other page,
The west side, which faces
The west side,
Delaney,
it
is
faces
going to become
the front of the
door.
house.
Are you turning the house? Or
No,
just-
the house stays in the same location.
Okay.
We're just proposing, originally approved was a porch on the side with the door in the side. Now we're proposing to straighten it up and have the front porch on the front of the house. So it's the northwest technically. I think it's called the west elevation.
Yeah.
So that's one major revision from what was approved originally. On the next elevation, just below that, the south elevation, we are removing shingles. We removed that whole side entrance thing. We're adding a few windows to that this smaller mass on the first floor, removing a window, and on the right-hand side of that, we're just extending the porch a little bit. On the next two elevations, the east and the north, the east, we've added some French doors and extended the porch to the end of the building on the left-hand side, and some of the windows got reconfigured with the interior spatial changes. And then on the north elevation, we're just proposing to take the shutters off. It's along the side of the property. It won't be seen. They just seem sort of silly. They seemed like they were wanting to be there for nostalgic reasons, and it didn't seem to make much sense to the house. But that's it. Oh, the other thing is we've dropped the whole house is dropping. It's going to be, God, I can hardly read it, but I think it's 26.3 high.
There's 27.1 now. Or
Right,
Holcomb
it's
has
just dropping a
27.1.
little bit. Yep. The foundation, the house is dropping into the foundation of it. Very fancy.
Very fancy.
There's a house in between this.
Lights. The units. Front floor. So that's going to face down the road. It's going to face Cliff Road now. Yes, now, Johnny, do you want to make your comments?
I'll pass it when I look at something else. I'll pass it.
Okay, and Ray?
Okay. So, I'm going to go slowly with this because what I've been doing during your narrative is comparing the elevations that you're proposing with the previously approved Holcomb elevations, okay? And unfortunately, they're not quite on this same orientation on the sheet, but that's fine.
Sorry.
So that's not your fault, it's just two different formats. So anyway, west elevation, okay? I'm looking at Holcomb and I'm looking at yours. So Holcomb had sort of a little kind of frontispiece pediment over it. Am I good? No, sorry. Yes, I'm wrong already. The west elevation has the chimney on the left-hand side. You're getting rid of the quarter-round windows, of course, we love that. He had like a little projecting side porch. I'm glad that you're getting rid of that. And then I like the way that you are setting up that front door so that it has more presence on that elevation, because this is the elevation that faces Delaney Road, which is the front of the house, correct?
Yes.
So I like all the changes. I appreciate all the changes that you've done to the west elevation. Now, the next one we have is south. So comparing those, again, we have this kind of elaborate, somewhat historical front door on the south elevation that Holcomb had. We're getting rid of that, simplifying that whole elevation. That to me is all fine. The only thing that I would question is going from one window to three on that smaller gable. Small concern with that, not huge. Now going over to the next sheets.
Wait a second,
Oh,
can
yeah.
you just go back to that?
Yeah, sure.
south elevation?
Yep.
Your concern is what? On the
Well,
gable, the
on that small gable, towards the right-hand side of the page, you have one window on top, and then you have three down below.
Right.
It's just sort of the difference between the single lonely window on the top and the three tightly spaced windows on the bottom that I'm reacting to. So that was that elevation. We'll do the simple one now, which is the north elevation. With the only thing we're doing on the north elevation, as far as I can tell, is removing shutters.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. I think you could have done that without our approval, frankly. And east elevation. East elevation, how visible are those French doors going to be? Which way?
I'm pretty sure not.
They're in the back.
They're in the
of
back,
house.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think, let's see, there's a wetland behind, there are no houses, there's no ways.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah, the fact that there's two sets of French doors and the fact that part of the porch is infill are the only things that I have to say about that. But if it's of little or no visibility, I don't have a real issue with it. End of comments. Thank you.
thanks.
How about you, Chris?
I agree with a lot of what Ray said. The only thing is that on the west elevation, I think that I don't know how you do it, but I think that those B windows, I would prefer that they were larger, and maybe, I would prefer to see the A windows on either side of the front door, and the smaller windows, well, it wouldn't really work, but I think those two B windows need to be larger windows. They need to be A windows, but I also think that they need to line up with the windows above. I agree with Ray on the south elevation with that gable with that one window that's above the three. It's rather odd looking. Wouldn't normally
happen. I wonder if I did 2, or if I did 2 above and 3 below, or 1 above and 2 below.
If you did 2 above and maybe centered them, you could, it would work. You don't need to do 3. The 3 wouldn't fit. And then on the east elevation, on the left-hand side where you have the 2 French doors, and I think that B window, I don't know what's going on inside, but I think that the first B window needs to slide over a little bit. It looks like it's kind of hitting.
The one on the left?
Yeah, where that.
Just so it's
the
not
corner
directly
board-
under that
yeah,
corner.
so
Yeah,
it's
they
not-
need to be separated a little bit.
So the board
Yeah.
is not running into it.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say, although it would be great if you got rid of that chimney that was coming out of that little bizarre looking.
Funny, I think it's there.
Yes, no, it is, but
It is there.
that's it.
Thank you.
Christine, you next?
Maybe. John?
Johnny, are you ready?
Yes, has everybody spoken?
No, we have one more.
Okay, I'll pass it. I'll pass it in one more time.
I have a question on the west elevation. Is that a shower?
Yeah, it's a shower enclosure.
I don't know that the shower in the front of the house facing Delaney is a great idea. I think
Yeah.
that has to be moved. And I agree with the view windows on the first floor of the west elevation. They should be larger because they're just shorter and squatter and it's not looking so great. The other question I had is on the south elevation. What is that panel to the left of the gable with where the 3 windows are? Is that
That's the shower.
that is the shower?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah. All right. So maybe that's gotta.
Do you agree with what else has been said?
I think, I just wanted to make sure, I have one other window that I'm questioning on that south elevation to the right.
To the right, that C window?
C window.
I have
It's
that.
above a kitchen, or it's
Yeah.
above a kitchen counter.
This strange window.
It's a strange window considering all the other windows that you have.
Okay, maybe I can make it a B to match the other 6 over 6
Yeah, because
in the
that's a
kitchen.
that's a,
Oh, yeah, I know, we're just trying to get as much. Okay.
Yeah, and
The-
other than that, I do agree that on that gable, on the south elevation, 2 over 2 would probably look a lot better
yes.
than 1 over 3.
Okay.
Okay, Johnny?
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. If there's no objection, I'll make the motion to approve it with changes.
Well, I was going to I get to say something too.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
On the house, parts of the house are old. I was wondering if we have any idea how old the windows are that are in the house that are being moved and removed around.
I do not have that information. I could find out.
Yes, I think we need to know the age of the house, because if the windows were usable, I would like, if you're moving windows out, to use them somewhere else. You're changing one set from 8 over 8s to 6 over 6s. Are you using the same rough opening, or are you proposing to make it different?
Basically, the windows on the north elevation, they're all new right now. I think it was a 7-bay house, and we're reducing it to a 6-bay, so they're aligning all differently. That house, that was originally the front
Yes,
of the house.
I know that, but I think it was originally a 5-bay house on the main.
I think it's a 7, actually.
It's 7.
I didn't think it was that big, but maybe
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, it's 7.
That big. But I know they would like to replace all the windows. I think
But
it's,
for what reason? Are they
For
falling
efficiency?
apart, or I'd like, we should know what the age is before we just have major destruction of all those windows,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of windows gone, and we should know whether they're usable or what the story is on that number of windows. We would like to see that C window in the kitchen replaced with probably a 6/6 rather than an 8/8. I think most of, and to have the shower removed from the north elevation,
Okay.
or the west elevation, excuse me, west elevation.
Right.
And I think that's it, along with the windows, that window specifically, and the shower removed. And would somebody like to make that motion, please?
May I just say one other thing
Mhm.
on the south elevation?
Mhm.
I noticed that window's been removed above the C window.
Yes.
And I wonder if that's not under-fenestrated now. That's going to look a little
I
blank.
would say it's not visible at all. If you look at the site plan,
Faces the back.
It's basically the house right on it. But I think we really need to get the age of the building and the age of those windows.
Motion to hold for revisions, which includes the age of the building and the age of the windows. Age and condition of the windows.
Yeah, age and condition. Everybody, put- say aye for that motion. Anybody against? Anybody on
I'll
the,
favor.
okay, that's
Thank you.
thank you.
unanimous.
Thanks, Carrie.
And she,
Thank you.
huh? Good job.
Well, so let's just pretend that we're still working on this, and Diane, you can keep going. You got to stay in here.
It was all Ray's idea.
Oh, that one's being held.
Linda. Linda. I
What happened to that?
took notes. It was held for revision to find out the age
1926.
of the house
1926.
and the age of the
They're
age and
original windows, all of them.
okay, age and condition of the windows, and the term
They're
what?
suffering. But it's 1926 and it has all the original windows.
Right, and to remove the shower from the west elevation, so it's not at the front door.
Okay, so it's held for revisions, in other words?
Yes.
We have White Heron
You're not
Theater.
Madam Chairman anymore?
So she's chairman now.
Oh, because I was going to ask a question of you.
Well,
Point of information. There was a previous approval, I think, that, what's his name got on that thing?
Yep.
That
Yes.
Probably, did it include replacing all the windows, or? You know
Well,
what I'm saying.
They allowed all the windows on the east side, north side, east side. They're
Beautiful.
coming out because it's a 7-bay at the moment.
Correct.
And you guys reduced it to a 5-bay,
Correct.
which means the windows are coming out.
Well,
Now,
the-
I don't know, I wasn't in the room, clearly, there were only 3 people sitting on it, whether they required him to reuse the 12/12s or whether they were jettisoned. I don't know. You
We
have to
should
go back
find
and
out.
ask.
Yeah.
we don't know. I think that should come in on our window
But
schedule
most of the
thing.
other windows are staying in the same rough openings they're in right now.
But they're removing some windows altogether.
Okay, but it is 1926, and it does have all of its original windows, every single one of them.
The board is Williams, Coombs, Holt, Leonardo, Laser. The alternate is Kent.
Hold on. Myself, Diane, Ray, Jason Leonardo Finger, and who? Abby?
Glazer and I'm the alternate.
Abby's the deal.
Oh, so Christine Glazer and Abby Kent. Was Dawn on this at all?
No.
Okay, so myself, Diane, Ray, Jason, and Christine, and the alternate is Abby. No John. No John.
Remove the balconies, dormer should be set back, not flush. The west elevation has to be clear with 3 windows. South elevation, front porch is awkward, has no door and is narrow. The windows need studying.
Before we go to this, with the board's indulgence, There was one down on new business that was on consent that was pulled off because of a discussion about roof shingles. They have now gone to weatherwood, which is a shingle that we have approved before. Rather than make them sit through all this, does somebody want to make a motion on Mark Williams, 86 Somerset, that weatherwood architecturals is okay? They're no longer going to red.
Sorry, where is this?
89, it's right
It
near
was
the
on
corner
consent,
of
it was
Somerset
pulled off of consent
and
at the last
Raceway,
minute.
the stop sign.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right next to McGowan's.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm recusing from that, and Linda, you should recuse yourself from it too.
I've already checked, I don't have to.
I think you should. That's what my opinion.
I will if you have a problem with it, but I already checked myself.
So I'm just curious, what is weatherwood?
Weatherwood is like brown.
It's on the roof?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
brown
asphalt.
rather than black.
Oh, I see,
Gray.
it's brown rather than.
All right, I need to know the board on this, please.
All right, it's going to be John, Ray, Diane, Abby, and Christine. I will step up if you have an issue, but I have checked and I don't. So Diane, you want to run it?
All right, so
It should go back on consent, but it can't once it's pulled off.
this is for Mark, right?
Yep.
Okay, this is
They're here, I just figured they might as well go.
for roof shingles, which is, as I said, at the corner of Somerset Road and Raceway and Somerset Lane coming up. It's two buildings in behind Sconset
Oh.
Gardner, and difficult to see, and actually, just for your thing, this building and the one is other building behind it comes off Bartlett Road that have that color shingle roof.
The red or the wood?
The wood,
Red-
what they're
weather-
asking for,
Weatherwood. Take the red off.
weatherwood.
Madam Chairman, could you say that again, what you just said?
It is two buildings in from the Sconset Gardner going down Somerset
Yes.
Road.
Yes.
And it's tucked in behind all of Marty's buildings. And if you came up Bartlett Road and went in 91 Bartlett Road, which is an architectural office and stuff, they have the same color shingles,
They all do,
yeah,
as the proposed.
as the proposed.
Motion for approval.
We have a motion for approval. Everybody for?
Aye.
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 The application has to be updated.
Anybody against?
Mark, just fix the application on your way out. Weatherwood.
Thank you, that was unanimous.
Thank you, Diane. Madam Chair.
Okay. Now we'll go back to White Heron. Diane, he needs the application for a second to fix the bottom of it.
Mark.
Don't take it with you. Okay. We have a board on this, I think you've already told us what it is.
Yeah, we
Yep.
I'm going the alternate.
Yep. Representing,
James Crott, Workshop APD.
okay, what have you given us here? We got a lot of stuff in front of us.
Under the advisement of the board in the previous submission, we've gone through several different massing studies and done schematic modeling for better reference and better understanding context within the neighborhood. What I've presented the board with today is site photos, additional precedent photos around the neighborhood, as well as a survey of all the buildings that are within reason and within relative height to the site for White Heron Theater. And then what we've done is we've built a small neighborhood model based on those heights and set our latest massing into that context for you to view. That is the 11 by 17 document you see in front of you, the grayscale massing model. And, of course, the drawings that relate to that. We've been editing the massing and the details continuously, and these are the latest and greatest that we have. We understand that this is a work in progress and that there will be comments from the board. However, we have addressed a lot of the major issues that were brought to attention by doing pretty substantial massing changes and stylistic changes. Biggest change being we previously had a gable forward structure that was presenting directly to Whalers Lane, kind of in tandem with the building next door. And what we've done is we've changed the massing into what is an eave forward structure that's distinctly more deferential to the neighborhood. Everything is gable forward to the street. So what we're trying to do is have the building maintain the height that we need for programmatic reasons, while actually taking a step back on the street facade. I think the model, page 5, 6, and 7 that shows street views, basically from Broad Street, Water Street corner to the Whaling Museum, as well as looking up Whalers Lane, shows how this takes a slightly better back seat to the neighbors. That being the first and foremost largest change that we made. In addition to the comments that were made from the board, what we did was we removed the board asked that we make a commitment to a style one way or another, be it Greek revival, be it Gothic, be it whatever the case may be, we commit to one. And what we did was we pulled away distinctly historical detailing rather to just create a cleaner, more traditional, more in keeping with, I would say, stereotypical Nantucket construction rather than committing to a time period. And in addition, we've done some other big changes like removing balconies that could be seen from the street, or Juliet balconies that could be seen from the street, removing the roof block, altering all the window sizes, still keeping a lot of the organization, but that's what we've presented at this time. So I urge you to look at the model because I think it tells a lot more than the full-size drawings at this time.
You don't
That's
have to
it.
urge me.
Okay.
Don't interrupt, please.
At your request.
Is that it for now?
That's it for now.
And your overall height is?
It still remains at 36 feet. With the height remains essentially the same. However, the roof block was removed, so its overall height is 5 feet less than it was.
Can I ask a question?
A clarification question.
Actually, it's two, but it's kind of in the same realm. The structure that the yacht club owns to this side, the more Gothic building, how tall is that? Do you know?
We've estimated it at 32 feet. I put a laser on it, but it's kind of hard to tell because it was at an angle and the pediments in the way.
And what about across the street on?
The Whaling Museum?
No, not the Whaling Museum.
The
Not
other
on
group?
Whalers Lane. On
Water?
yes,
Water.
North
Got a
Water
picture of it
Street,
here.
the white building.
You got a picture of it in here?
Yeah. What is the?
The height is wrong in here, by the way. We did this photo.
Oh, you did not. This is
Oh, I'm
right here,
sorry.
estimated, but I guess.
That's
Never
wrong.
mind.
It's not 26 feet, James. It's a lot taller than 26 feet because we did all the renovation to
The
it.
water one?
The one on
Not
Water?
26 feet?
What does that
Yeah, that has to be taller than 26
Oh, yeah,
feet.
that's-
That's totally wrong.
This is 26.
36.
Well, that's only better for me.
I could see that that's 26.
No, that's incorrect.
I
We
really,
did the- we
yeah,
did the-
it should be easy to find out exactly how tall these buildings are.
I understand. I haven't had the opportunity to pull them all in the last week.
Because that one, the 8 North Water Street is much taller than 4 North Water Street. And you have 4 North Water at 30. You have this at 30. This one's a lot.
I think
pretty
it's,
big
I think
taller.
it's simply mislabeled.
Yeah, I think it's actually 36 feet as opposed to 26.
Yeah.
That would make
All
more
right, so that's the
sense.
clarification. So are we ready, Ray? He's not.
I'm ready. I was going to borrow his tape measure. So,
No, here.
I very much appreciate your doing those 3D views for us. It was very helpful for me. I also appreciate the things that you did by way of modification. I think the building is heading towards simplification, which I think is my primary desire for this building. So I'm going to give you my comments here. We'll start with the south elevation. The south elevation, the one thing that hasn't changed, or there's a few things that haven't changed since the previous iteration, one of which is the fact that the second floor is giving me 5 windows, and the first floor is giving me 4 windows. Is it a 4-bay or is it a 5-bay? I don't know. So that there should be some dialogue between those two, so that the overall composition of that main gable is harmonious and restful. Also, I'm looking at the floor plan, the first floor plan, and, well, I don't need to look at the first floor plan to tell you that we really don't need that porch on the front because there's windows there. There's no doors. It's not like people are going to be walking up to that and going in that direction. Further, and this is your call, but you don't really need to have those huge windows for any particular reason because they just sort of look into the lobby. Not that I object to large windows. I think that they're appropriate, particularly downtown on larger buildings. It's just
You're
that...
on the south elevation still?
I'm still on the
And
south elevation.
South elevation.
Yeah, still on the south elevation. So one thing I'd love to see is sort of a cleanup operation taking place on the main gable of that south elevation. And I think that getting rid of that porch might be very helpful just to get this to be simplified. The other thing that I noticed about that porch in the 3D views that probably would have escaped me just looking at the elevations is the left-hand side is hipped and the right-hand side is more of a shed. It's just cut off. And then it sort of wraps around and then it becomes a different depth porch roof by where the doors are that you actually enter into the theater. Which, by the way, I don't object to that porch on the secondary mass, the mass on the left-hand side, because that is the entrance, and presumably, if it's a rainy night, people are going to want to congregate under a porch. So there, I think the porch is fine. Second floor windows, I'm
You're talking about this, the 3/3?
still, well, yes. Why the 3/3s? Because they really seem kind of inappropriate. Certainly, you wouldn't ordinarily see those if there were a full 2-story building, see 3/3 windows in a main mass like that. I also don't quite get the idea that there's sort of a rather large frieze board under the eave, which is fine. And then we have about a 1-foot shingle space before we get to the windows. And the windows, I think, should, like most second floors in the downtown area, those windows want to be closer to, sort of attached to that frieze board. So that's the south elevation. East elevation, I believe you removed one of the balconies. I'm still not, in love with the other balcony. Still questioning these 3/3 windows. because there's a lot of wall space there with not a lot of detail to break up the mass. North elevation, similar comments. Larger windows, that gable that faces towards me on the left-hand side, I think needs more fenestration. It could use a gable and window up the top, 6/6 instead of 3/3s. And the same is true of the west elevation. Lots of 3/3s. The dormer that is up on the third floor is very odd in that it's flush, but the windows are set up high. You really could run the eave across and make that dormer feel more subordinate than it is right now. That's it for me. Look forward to hearing the other comments.
Brian? Anything else?
I agree with what he has said completely. I think the big windows on the first floor shouldn't be 2/2s. If they want them, they should
And you're on which elevation?
South.
So they should follow more the big windows that we use downtown, either the paned or with the top one being paned and the bottom being not. And I think this 3/3s have got to be 6/6s. And on the on the west elevation, what is that sort of trellis thing?
It is a trellis. It probably shouldn't be drawn there.
Well, I don't mind if it's a trellis, but the little windows all over, to me, all over the building do not follow what we're...
So you agree with everything Ray's already said?
Yep.
Okay. Jason, do you have anything else to add?
I have some things to add. I agree with a lot of what's been said. I think, however, that you are, because this is, yes, it's still within the downtown commercial area, however, this is a transition area, and I think that you went from mixing up the Gothic and Greek details to like going so absolutely plain that now it just looks like an infill that could be popped anywhere. And I don't think that that's appropriate. I think you need to pick up some details, like Ray had said last week, choose a style, but pick up some details of one of those kind of 3 or 4 buildings that are right in that area to make it fit in better with what is around it. I don't think the porch is appropriate either, but even if it was, the columns are too narrow. I think that those dormers are... I can understand you're wanting to get more light into that third floor space, but I think something else can be done, and maybe that's 2 smaller dormers and a bigger detailed dormer in the middle, not bigger as in like 5 windows, but taller with some kind of whatever architectural direction you go with. It sounds like the windows are changing. I agree about the 3/3s, but all the window pane sizes are all little tiny squares. Yeah, there's just needs to be more fenestration on the east elevation. The Juliet balcony, there really is no reason for that. It should just go away. And then on the west elevation, you're totally dissing the road. It looks like the back of a building, and something needs to be given to this building to give it better street presence because it sits on 2 streets. And this is just a slap in the face to the neighborhood. It's like, it looks like the back of a building. The dormer, I don't think is appropriate. That porch, I believe that's where the handicapped access is, but it really is kind of sticking them on the side, but again, it needs better street presence. The trellis just needs to go away and windows need to be there. And then you have this little side piece all the way over on the left that's just basically a blank giant wall. And seeing as this building could possibly be this tall, you need to do something better with trying to make it feel less tall and poking over the road, because it's really just going to shade the street. That's it.
No comment from anyone here?
Christine. Christine. Anything to add?
I have nothing further to add. I think it's all been said.
I agree with a lot, and I don't agree with a lot. I do agree with Jason that it's got to have a style. It's got nothing going on. You have so much Greek revival in that neighborhood, and you've got Victorian going on the corner and up the street on Broad Street. New building is going to be Victorian, attached to the old yellow building. And you've got Greek revival all the way around it. Now, whether it's Greek revival, whether it's Gothic, you have both styles there. I think you need to pick a style. It doesn't even look like a barn. It doesn't look like anything right now. We have to remember that this is not a dwelling. This is a commercial structure being built as a commercial infill structure. We don't have a lot of that going on downtown, but it just so happens we have another one across the street happening. It's going to be a theater. It is not a house that has been repurposed, which is why you have some of the other things going on some of the other structures in town that have been repurposed for commercial purposes. This is a commercial structure. It is not a house that's been repurposed, so it would maintain some of the house details. It doesn't have it. Didn't have them from the beginning. But these 3/3 windows, I think they're using them because they have such a large seating underneath it. I think there's overuse of the 3/3s. I think here and there a 3/3 on the backside might work, but I think it's programmatic. We have form driving, functions driving form here, which we don't usually see. We usually see our exteriors are driving the interiors because this isn't like anywhere else in the country. We do actually have a big example of the interior driving the exterior because of the use. It is not simply a retail structure. But I think some of the critical errors are these 3/3s proliferating around the building. But one of the biggest problems with the windows, even the 6/6s or if you go to 12/12s, is the fact that you have chiclets for pane size. When you're looking around downtown, 99% of the windows downtown, if they're not the Victorian 2/2s, which are narrow and tall, are very vertical. Very vertical. Okay, and we were talking, somebody mentioned earlier that the 6/6s look short and squat. They do need to be narrower or they need to be taller. Same width or a little bit wider, but they need to be taller. And they're large windows downtown. We don't have little windows downtown. I don't know how you're going to deal with your second floor program, but I do agree that you need something a little bit more dressed up on the north and on the west. These dormers are having a problem. So I think you've got to go back to pick a style and then go to the Gothic, some of the diamond top window. You can go to the Gothic more. You were going in the Greek Revival direction. I think you need to go back to that direction. I think I think the Gothic's probably going to look better for you because it's going to have a very distinctive appearance. But I think on the porch, I see you one more time.
Yeah, okay.
On the porch, I don't mind the porch. This, again, is a lobby. It's not going to have house windows. But I don't think the proportions of the 2/2s are correct. Diane mentioned some of the other 2/2s around town, or even a plate window with the bracelet on the top. We have all kinds of those windows. All up and down Federal Street, you'll find 4 different kinds of large windows. I think you need to rethink how big these are. Lobby, yes. Understand that a lot of the first floor windows of the repurposed homes in town have replaced those first floor windows with large plate windows of some type. I think you need to go back there. I think if you're going to have French doors, I think the French door pattern needs to match whatever the production is.
Are you saying, Linda, are you saying that the porch on this elevation,
I think it needs to change. I think it needs to change. And I think it needs to integrate into the side one that everybody thought was okay.
I like the side one.
I think it needs to integrate more, but I don't think it needs to have big, wide veranda steps, and I think that's hurting the porch.
We, to some degree, the porch it's a tool for us to make a building lower
Right.
and to pull you off the street. One of
We
the other
figure out a
reasons why we
different
hold it is that is our backup ramp if we don't receive variance for our lift.
Right.
Which we would want to have covered when we don't want to expose. So we're going to push to keep that.
So
I'm
yeah,
in total
plus-
agreement about the window stuff. We're still working.
Plus, even if you have a lift or a handicap ramp, let's say on the North Water side, you need a place of landing
Agreed.
to get out, and that may very well be that front porch. But I think having 2 wide
Yeah, I can't-
steps going up, I think that's overkill.
It may very well
And
become
I
a
think it
ramp
needs
either
to
way.
integrate anyway into the side one. So those are my comments.
Can I ask a few questions or make a few
Yeah.
comments myself? One thing I will note is that in looking at the model a little bit more, you can start to tell how much that the east and west are actually, one is within a 6-foot alley that you can't see, and the other one is directly behind the old Atlantic real estate location. So a lot of that blank wall is really in an alley. Especially the back stair, or in plan, which is the back stair, which is our blank wall with mechanical equipment, is essentially only abutting the tennis courts and can't be seen from the street.
Right, so I caution you
and it's a
on the
fire stair.
visibility to be careful about the back side of the building and the back corner, which is shielded by the other house that's staying there. So, and then the other house on the other side shielding a great deal of the back side of it on the east side. So we've got to stick within our jurisdiction on this. But you've got some sort of fatal flaws in it right now.
I totally agree. This is fairly telling to the corner that the only place where you can see windows is the porch entry. Anything that's behind the, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the background. This is essentially hiding a lot of what we actually consider our programmatic space and our dark theater. So we don't think these are the best looking elevations either, but I also don't want to put in windows I'm just going to have to black out. That's
pointless.
Yeah. One other question I'd like to ask, just because the biggest change for us is just understanding, does this mass make sense and everyone's comfortable with the mass moving forward as long as we start to make stylistic changes and fenestration changes?
Right.
Because that's a big deal for us.
With a small caveat, and that gets to the additional point that I wanted to raise, and that is of the dormers. I'm looking at
The front ones or
the third floor dormers. I'm sorry, I didn't. Well, okay, I'll talk about the back ones in a second. The ones facing
east and west.
East and west.
The ones facing
Are you talking about the baby
The
dormers?
gable
on the
dormers?
house? The gable
These.
dormers?
The front.
these.
It's the south,
These guys.
right?
Yeah, the south elevation.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the board members will agree that getting rid of those would simplify this building. Well, I'm looking at the third floor program. The other thing that I noticed was you've got a huge gable facing east with no windows in the gable end, and then you have 3 dormers that are adjacent to that, allowing light into this multi-function space. Why can't we just get rid of the dormers and put the windows on the east side? You know, I mean, then you get rid of the dormers.
South Light and everybody else around them has third floor dormers. I think that's why you went that direction.
Why do you
I
need
would say
South
I
Light?
would say both would be great, but I mean, part of our addressing that much roof in the third floor is simply
Break it up.
it's a chunk of roof. When you look at it in reality from the street, it doesn't feel that bad. When you look at it on this flat elevation, it looks really bland. That's frankly, it's good light to our lobby, good light to the space. I think we should add windows to the east one way or another.
And can I say one more thing about these?
Absolutely.
The Juliet balcony there, I've noticed, has like no depth.
Correct.
There's no balcony.
Correct.
It's just a rail.
Correct.
So what is, I mean, not that I care, but what's the purpose of that?
Similar to the space at the Dreamland, it's essentially allowing, that's our view. We actually,
Let your hair down?
to some degree, Rapunzel to the
All right, let's keep
6-story.
on track.
It's essentially our best view and our best selling point for that location, because frankly, I can't populate the rest of it with a lot of light and a lot of air, so the
Best
best
view.
thing, best view
Hopefully
is
not
actually
a
water.
public way.
No, it's not a public way.
Okay, let's move on. Somebody make a motion to hold for revisions.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And motion, the same people, Ray, make a motion to hold the removal of the other structure to track this.
That was, I think it was already
That
approved.
was already approved.
We
Is that already
approved that.
But it's on here
We
again,
definitely approved that.
because you had 2 signed up, so this is gone.
It's the conditions that this happens, presumably.
No, I think we just
Go
outright
away.
approved it.
Yeah, go away.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was a demo/move.
It was,
Yeah.
No.
It just
no-
came
No
back on again.
conditions, apologies.
All right, automatic views. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the automatic views with the policy we worked out with the chairman?
So moved.
Diane's made that motion to put all the rest of them on automatic view on that section with the polls we worked out with the chairman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there's going to be a few more added at the end of the week. Diane made a motion that was unanimous, and who was the alternate on that?
Me.
Okay, Christine Glader. No, you're not an alternate. Nice try. Okay, that was unanimous.
Christine, really,
Yep. All right, new business, we already did Williams. Cameron Gamble. He was supposed to be here. Is he in the hallway by any chance?
I haven't seen him at all.
Because, hold on. Matt said that he was coming to record himself. I'm not sure he realized what time. Are we going to take a break, a quick break, or want to just power through? It's up to you guys.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
I want to meet Steven Seagal.
We're going to hold it for a second. Where are you going to meet him? Where are you going to meet him?
He's coming
I think
to
he
this
calls
meeting.
himself Siegel.
Siegel.
Oh, that's just, an alias.
Just on Nantucket.
All right, we're going to Caldo, to Janet's. Yep.
I make a motion to.
No, we're just
Put
passed over.
Gammon?
We just passed over.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Okay, who's my board on this?
This is the regular board plus an alternate. So who's on Ishmael Caldo?
Yes.
Hold on a second, Jan. Who's on this?
Hello.
I guess it'll be me.
This is all new business.
And alternates are Abby and Christine.
Less than half an hour.
Okay.
Should we start?
Yeah, hang on. Representing the applicant?
Myself, Janet Caldo.
Give them a little history, Jan, because I think I'm the only one who's maybe Diane that's
Yeah,
the
Diane,
original one.
I'm John too. My house was built over the past year, finally, after like 7 years, so I'm thrilled with that. I had put the garage on hold until the house was complete to see, how it would, if I could do it and so forth. Anyway, in your package, I've got the approved garage, and then you have the revision. And basically, I'm just changing it from a second floor. I'm downsizing it, eliminating the second floor in the studio, because I really don't need it, and you can't put water up there, or it's a second dwelling and so forth, and I really just need it for a garage. So it's going down in height and also dimensions a little bit. And we had to scoot it over a little bit on the site because the water line from the well, they didn't want to put it over top of that.
Okay, but there was some discussion when it came in the first time about the location, if you remember.
Yes.
They didn't want it in front of the front door of the house, which is why it was, where you see the dotted line.
Right.
Yeah. And so they're moving it over a little bit farther, and it's still when they actually get around the front door, because it actually hammerheads and dead ends at her house, which then it goes down around the corner to the front of the house.
Yeah, it's a very awkward driveway.
Very awkward.
And you see the well up there in the top right here, let's see.
Don't worry about it.
Oh,
Does anybody have any problems with this? Ray's going.
I think it's an improvement over what was already approved in almost every way, so.
Okay, Diane, any concerns?
No, it's what we like, the garage out there.
Jason?
What are the colors of the doors? Are they colored or are they natural?
What are the doors?
They're going to be natural.
Natural to weather, or I
Yeah.
put down natural to weather on the doors, please. Thank you. And the windows match the house.
Yes, windows are the same as them.
Make a motion.
Diane's made a motion to approve. All those in favor?
Hey.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thanks.
Haven't seen you since then.
I know. I missed all the last summer. We're going to get built.
I know.
Come see us again.
No, she's had enough.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, Stephen Siegel, 4 Flora Street. All right, so Abby's on it. So alternates are Jason and Christine. Okay. Now, the only reason this didn't go to consent also is because we had an issue with the deck when it was on the first time extending, and now it's extending again. Explain.
Okay, so Doug Mills for the applicant. So the intent here is to have the...
John? Go ahead.
Good. The intent here is to have the deck be a little more livable. It's currently fairly small. It's about 8 by 10. So we're just adding 6 foot 5 inches to the width, if you're looking at it from the side yard, and keeping it the same depth. Currently, the way it's configured, it sort of is focused on the driveway, which our client would prefer to focus more towards the yard, so that it's, that's the reason for the cascading step at the bottom. I mean, we're keeping all the details the same. It's a very minor extension of the existing deck. And, again, the focus is trying to downplay the connection to the driveway and have it connect more with the yard. Thank you.
Were you on, did you bring this in the last time when they
No, we did
built
not.
that deck?
No. That was someone else.
Yeah, they said no already. But go ahead. John?
Comment, what is it?
Yeah, we're working with someone else's drawings and sort of drawing over it. So these balusters are existing, and these are the treads that are there now. So the baluster would go away.
Any comment, John? Ray?
So the history of this is that this was requested once before
They
and
wanted to
denied?
extend the deck before, and we said no.
In the same configuration?
It was extended, but it was a little different. It didn't have these cascading steps all over the bottom of it.
Well, frankly, that's the only thing I'm objecting to, Doug, is the cascading steps don't necessarily, they're not really a historical type treatment of a stair. I understand what you're doing, like part of it is addressing the gate that's coming in from the driveway, correct?
Correct.
And then, as you said, you want to also be able to direct yourself down into the lawn and the patio, thus the sort of two different directions, right?
Correct.
But that sort of, wrap around 2 steps at the bottom is kind of a modern treatment, which if it were more concealed from the road, I think I would be in favor of. But this is visible, correct? Or is there
Fully,
Yes.
fully.
If you move the Land Rover.
you said fully?
Yeah, I mean, if the Land Rover's not there.
That's why we didn't approve the
Yes. So my opinion is that if something were done with those bottom treads so that they were made to be a little more historical or a more historical treatment, that I would be in favor of it. That's it.
Diane?
I would agree with what said. I would take the 2 off that are facing towards Flora Street. I live at the foot of this street, and I go up there all the time. And basically, their car is there 90% of the time. And the 2-car garage, or that little garage thing, is right next to it. I don't think it's greatly visible, but I do think that those 2 stairs facing Flora Street ought to be gone, and that would give you the deck and the smallest stair coming down next to the car. Can you do that?
Hold on, I don't think some of us agree with that.
Well, you don't have to. I just was asking him to
I mean,
get...
we could pick a direction.
Yeah. I just wouldn't
Whether
have
it's
it-
towards Flora or towards the yard, I think we could pick a direction.
I wouldn't put it towards Flora, I would put it in another direction.
Who's on?
Hi,
Abby.
I don't mind the extension of the deck at all. I just think I agree with what's been said. It needs to be simplified so that you can't see something inappropriate from the street.
I'm opposed to it for the same reason that the board before was opposed to it. It's extending off the side of the house another 6 feet. We thought that the deck that they have was too deep, fully visible from the road. You cannot use a car as screening. It is fully visible. We thought the previous proposal was too wide. I think this is too wide again. I don't think it should have any stairs whatsoever in the configuration that it's in at all, especially facing the road. So they're adding another 6 feet coming towards the road and another 6 feet going towards the garden. This is not just one thing, guys. This is adding a whole deck extension coming towards the road. And we said it was too heavy a deck for this small 3-bay historic house, that it was completely inappropriate hanging off the side of the house. We said if it had been towards the back, which is why they got the deck extension in the back, that's not a problem. But running this whole thing towards the street is not appropriate. So I'm again opposed to it. So I don't see how we can go backwards and add all this stuff on because we have maybe a new owner, I don't know, that we said was not appropriate to begin with. You guys want to go ahead and do that, that's fine, but you're going to have to come up with something better than this, because he can't redesign those steps sitting here. He's going to have to go away and do
Yeah,
it. But I don't think the deck extension's appropriate at all. And if somebody hadn't gotten over there to view it, I think you do. I know Christine went, I go, Diane goes up the street. But I think you all need to go over, park yourself in front of the building, and take a look at this before you make a decision on this, and we can put it back on the view list for Friday. If you haven't gotten there. I did send an email suggesting that you all go over there.
So moved.
John's made a motion to put back on the view list, and you want to make changes between the All those in favor of putting it on the view list?
Aye.
Okay, let's go on the official view list.
Was that the one that you thought was going to go on?
No,
You said there may be some more going on.
there's some that are going on that are not on here. I'll put that on the view. Dorton, you're still here. No,
Oh, Mr. McEwen.
you're here.
No, wasn't Abby just on it?
Abby was on the last
Abby was
one.
just on it, and Christina on it, she was on it all three, because they're all connected.
Patrick Dorton, who's on this one? Christine, right?
Yes.
And so the alternates are Jason and
Okay, so.
okay, representing the applicant.
Joe Paul from DPC.
Okay. What is happening?
These are revisions to a previous approval. If you flip to sheet A21, it's the comparison of the before and after. On the front elevation, you see on the north elevation,
Shower.
yeah, it's the shower, which looks significant in elevation, but I think if you look at the
Oh, that's why this wasn't on.
If you look at the site plan, this doesn't show the neighbor's house in the plan, but they've oriented their house so that it's orthogonal to the street like this, and this house is about like that. So this little shower is right there. I mean, I don't think you're really going to see that shower once this thing gets vegetated and that house next door is constructed. But the outdoor shower essentially moves around the corner from the rear of the building to the side of the building. On the west elevation, you see the shower change, and also we eliminated 2 doors out of this sunroom and replaced them with windows that match all the other windows that have been approved on that side.
Then I didn't get the south. I couldn't understand it at all.
You couldn't understand the south.
I don't know what happened.
Well, if you look at the 3 clouded areas, the shower moved around the
See the shower,
corner.
not that. It was this right-hand thing underground for forget it. No, made no sense because there wasn't a wall next to the window.
Yeah, well, it's just showing you the inside. What it is, it used to be an areaway with a stair and a railing and 4 windows. And now the client cut the previously approved areaway in half. There's no stair down, it's just a window well.
But wouldn't that window have moved to the left? It's like banged up into a wall that doesn't exist, unless the little foofy's hiding it. There's no wall.
Well, the thickness of the wall you just don't see.
What? Wait, shouldn't there be a line here?
Well, isn't it all underground behind the house?
Yeah, but shouldn't there be a line here, like a dotted line?
There's a line.
There is a line there, yeah. I think the cloud is
Right next to
obscuring
the
it.
casing.
Yeah, it's
Makes no
tight to the
sense.
casing. But essentially, that thing got shrunk in half, and it went from 2 windows to 1 window. And there are no changes that show up on the east.
Other than not understanding the drawing. I understood it was cut, but I couldn't quite figure
Yeah.
out how. And
Well-
the only reason that kept us off the consent was the shower on a wart on the side of the building that's visible from the road.
Yeah, I think it's definitely on the
You
back.
could go someplace else where
It's
it
on the,
was.
it's on the back left corner, and it doesn't make sense for us to have the shower blocking that view of the garden from the
That's not our
bathroom.
problem, and you know that.
Well, I know, I'm just
That's why
explaining.
it's not on consent, because
Well,
of the shower.
Okay, I'm trying to explain the project, but I just don't think, there aren't a lot of locations for the outdoor shower to go.
It's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Outdoor showers come up very frequently at these meetings.
Everybody wants one now.
Everyone wants one, of course. Now, in terms of the plumbing, you can just put the shower head on the side of the wall.
Right.
Now, in terms of the enclosure, if it's all based on visibility, wouldn't it be safe just to come back when things are framed up and say it's not visible? Like, go out and check, it's not visible, rather than speculate?
Leave it where it is.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't need to have the outdoor shower approved to build the building. The
Correct.
outdoor shower is an appendage that can go on at any time.
Right.
So rather than rely on, this building may block it, probably will block it, whatever, why not just hold it until more pieces are in place, and then you can come in and say, it's not visible? The other house, is there any urgency to having it?
No, just purposes of planning and understanding
Right.
that that's where it's going to go.
But, a shower head, you could put the shower head on the side of the wall, and
That's right, yeah, we could.
it
And
won't,
then-
it won't hold up your plumbing or anything.
No, it won't.
What should be, what should happen is that the whole thing approved except for the shower change, and then if you want to come back for that one.
I think that's
Yeah,
what Ray is
that's
saying.
what- that's what-
Exactly.
I think that makes a lot
I
of
would be
sense.
for
When in
adding-
doubt,
And take Abby off as an alternate.
Thank you for the
She cannot
suggestion.
leave the room and be considered as an alternate, so she's off.
So what is the motion?
So the motion would be, Diane, is that
To
your motion to
approve-
approve everything but the shower change?
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
No. It's just everything is approved except for the shower change. If you wanna come
Yeah,
in, you
just-
can come in
just
and cross
X
it
out
off
the
the plans.
shower.
He has to cross it off.
Okay.
So it is an approval.
Yeah.
And just come in, you don't need new drawings, just come in and just cross it off. and
Okay.
Initial it. Submitting whole new plans for something like that is ridiculous. Diane
I
made the motion.
I did make the motion.
So everything but the shower change is okay.
That was unanimous.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Then we have the pool.
The pool's not previously approved. I mean, it's shown up on the plan, but it hasn't been described in any way.
And it could be in a,
It's pretty well blocked.
I don't have a set of plans.
You do now.
So the same people are sitting on it, Christine is on it, no Abby, and Jason is the alternate.
So just so you understand the lot, the hatched area, by the way, is a conservation restriction, so none of that can be cleared, that large hatched area, so it's definitely not going to be visible from the back.
What makes you think you can put a wire fence in conservation area?
Well, it's actually, we just can't cut down any trees in there.
It's their property.
Yeah. You're not allowed to cut down any of the
Conservation
vegetation.
Restriction is there. Does the restriction allow disturbance for a wire fence?
I was told
I
that,
guess not.
well, I was told that we were allowed to do that fence as long as we don't cut down any vegetation, and There actually aren't any large trees within this
Yeah, so
distance
just-
anyway. Yeah. The driveway, it doesn't show up on the site plan. You see where the car is, the Jeep?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that.
It's, yeah. So it kind of, it arcs around that side and that's it.
To the right of the Jeep?
Correct, yeah. The Jeep is in the driveway. So the pool is hidden, I think it's dark gray, and we have a blue, it's literally in the lawn. There's no patio around it.
What you do need to explain is where's just the wire that's in the hatch, and this is wood?
Yeah, there's a 4-foot picket fence with, not picket, they're 1x3 boards with no cap that we have painted gray, but I would actually say it would probably be better to be natural. So it bridges between the garage and the house with a little gate that matches the fence. And then the corner where the shower is, it attaches over there to the cabana. So there are 2 sections of it that would be natural cedar.
So this is all fence?
That's all
And
fence.
this piece that's going from there into the hedge is fence?
Yeah, and then,
Regular fence?
correct.
What we don't have is a picture of the fence, which we always require, so you'll have to put that in. I assume it's a board fence?
Yeah, it's a 1x3 board. It's described over there on the left-hand side. I didn't think I needed to draw it just based on the description.
You have to have the drawing on the plan for the
Sorry.
fence. And as well as the mesh. All fences have to be on pool plans. Anybody have any concerns here?
No, I appreciate the size of the fence around the pool. I don't know if you have to go into the conservation area that deeply, but I think you've made a good try to contain it around the pool.
Why is it that deep?
I just want to show at some distance it could actually be cut in half. It doesn't.
Well, we're never going to see it, so we don't know where
Right.
it is. It's just there.
It's there in the conservation area.
Ray,
I'm fine with it.
John,
My other comment in studying it long enough here as a commission, we have to make a basic rule that no fencing from the pool, more than 20 feet from the pool.
that,
Whether it's housing or fences or what.
that was eliminated some years, 10 years ago, John.
I know, I'm saying we gotta bring it back.
Well, we
That's
can't
why
do
you
that
run into
here.
it, you know. But anyway, no, I have no other comment.
I make a motion to approve.
Christine,
Have we approved the garage?
yeah, all those buildings
Yeah.
have been approved.
Yeah.
So Diane, your motion would be to approve with a rendering of the mire and the wood, natural to weather wood fence
Yes.
on the plan for the
Yes.
staff. Is that it?
Yes.
So it won't be painted gray, correct?
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
He has to give a drawing of the 2 types of fences on the plan, so through staff. So you've got to take this plan and put them on there.
Before you open the next one, can I
Hold
ask,
on, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
can I ask a question? Who do you go to about this development? Because those benches in that cul-de-sac are totally inappropriate.
We have benches in it?
Oh, you can see them on the
John
aerial.
Keane and Charlie Gifford.
They're like these stone things that are like, they're like 5 feet in the air, and they look like, what's her name, their big rocking chair, they're really.
Really?
stupid.
In this
Oh,
cul-de-sac?
Stupid looking.
I wonder if the neighbors put them in there. I'll ask my client about it.
I mean, my husband even was like, what the heck is that? It just.
So hardscaping in the cul-de-sac?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can see them in the aerial. It looks like Stonehenge. Look at the aerial. I'm not kidding you. It is awful looking.
And it needs to come out.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 or
But
6
to
of them.
tell somebody that, they need to come
in the
out.
aerial.
Sure you come back there.
They're like this. Yes.
You have the cabana?
There are 5 of them.
You can see them in the aerial?
Yes.
That's how hideous they are.
Oh, yeah.
Check it out.
I would not be able to sit on them without getting on my tiptoes.
Really?
Yeah, they look like the
But they need
Flintstones.
to come out immediately.
Well, my client's not the developer, but
No,
he knows the developer, yeah.
Well, John is not the developer, he was bought out. There were
Charlie
other
Gifford?
people that know, and he was bought out. There were other people that took over the development.
Yes.
because they're the architectural review board for this thing
Yeah,
still.
but they did not, John,
Was John in a,
Can you take out?
yeah.
so it was
These
unanimous.
things are really tall bunches.
All right, now we're down to the cabana.
You know, it's called, do you mind if I start? It's called a cabana, but it's really more of a pavilion. It's not enclosed with full height walls. It's they're half walls with posts, as you can see, and there's a fireplace. It's really a sitting area to get out. It's really a shade area to get out of the sun for the pool.
Where's this going? This way?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have the height on here.
I assume it's this structure, correct?
Yeah, it's
The
that
one over
structure.
the
Should
left.
put the fence
Yeah.
on here.
Should have shown the fence on here. That would have been helpful.
And that's why this was not on the consent, because this, you got a dead aim at it, right from Blackfish, right at that one we just had a problem with, this outdoor fireplace. We just messed with that whole earlier, I don't think you were here at that point.
No, I wasn't.
That's out here by itself with a clear shot, and we
If there
don't
was-
want it out by itself and the chimney on that side.
If there was no chimney on it, it was just a square, would that change your opinion? With a hip roof, as drawn? Basically, that appendage that supports the chimney is a gable that comes into the cabana. That would
whole
all,
piece would go away.
that whole piece would go away.
It wouldn't have an extra piece, it wouldn't have the chimney, nothing, it would just be a four.
It would be a half wall that wraps around and would be open towards the pool.
Can you move it towards the pool further?
I can slide it towards the pool, yeah.
These cabanas out there on their own make no sense.
I mean, it could align with the edge of the,
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Somebody who'll make a motion to hold for
Isn't there a
revision.
requirement though about how far it has to be from the pool?
No,
not the cabana, not that I'm aware
a
of.
fence can't be right close. It's a fence, because you have to have a way to get out of the pool.
I think most.
May I make a motion to hold for revision?
Thank you.
All those in favor? We did the pool.
The chimney,
The chimney.
Chimney addition on the thing and the location of the thing.
Enjoy your night off.
Location of the whole structure.
Yeah, too far out.
Almost night off.
almost.
Okay, Francis and Brian Vale, 18 Cherry Street. I think I sent this to everybody. This one was already approved, as you see it, except for some minor changes, because what she's doing is making it actually a rental structure, guys, that is fully handicap accessible, which is unusual. So who's sitting on this one?
Jason Aldridge?
No, not you.
No. Representing, sorry.
And who's the alternate on this one? Christine?
I'm sitting on it, but Christine and Abby can go through.
So who's the alternate?
I think if we're going this way,
I don't know if we're running this.
It's Jason.
Okay,
Jason,
so it is, alternates are Christine and Abby. Representing Jason Olbres. Olbres. You've seen it enough.
I've seen them once or twice.
Yeah.
Hello.
Go.
So changes made northwest elevation. Added 1 foot width to the main mast and centered windows accordingly. Ridge height is at 24.6, I believe. 24.9 and a half, I'm sorry, from 24.6. Northeast elevation, we added a French door, an accessible ramp with a 6-inch grade change at ramp entrance, plus new chimney appears on this elevation, and new porch showed on this elevation. Southeast, added chimney 3 foot to the deck, changed French door from 5.4 to 5.0, changed 5.4 door to 6.0 wide. Southwest, added chimney on this elevation, added basement windows, used the B size, which is the smallest standard window in the house, yet it still remains egress code, and new porch showed on the elevation. That's about it.
Diane?
In adding the foot to either side of the main dwelling, the windows are too close together. I would move them so that they went out further to the side. You've got
The
a
windows
four
are-
bay all pushed in.
The windows are exactly where they were.
I know, but he's added a foot on either side.
I think it was just the one side?
One side.
One
One
side.
side.
Well,
So the windows have not moved.
I still think that they would look better if they were moved further, spread them further apart on the front of the house. I think on the northeast elevation, the second floor, ganged windows need to be separated.
All right, Diane, on the first floor plan, if you move the windows apart
Yeah.
towards the left, there's a stairway there, and they've got all clearances for the handicap accessibility. And I believe they're putting an elevator, yes, they are
Yeah.
putting an elevator in. So they can't move the door to the left because they're in the stairs.
Okay. Yeah. It's still kind of odd looking. She was talking about the first floor?
They all have to line up, they can't line up apart from each other on a four bay. Any other comments?
Yeah,
Move around.
those ganged windows on the northeast are over a staircase that can be separated. They would look better
They were already approved.
separated. So what, are we only approving
The circles,
the circles?
yeah. Davies clouds
All right,
are
well,
zone making.
they are necessary, I guess, for the wheelchair to go in and out the width of the doors and the rest of the stuff. So I guess that's it. Everything else was approved.
Ray?
Okay.
Ray.
All right, so to Diane's point, you see, looking at the northwest elevation and the foot that was added onto that. Yeah, now, this design was approved before, right? And you're coming in for revision. It's not yet built, correct?
I don't believe so.
No.
Okay, all right. So,
She bought the lot and she bought the plans with the lot.
okay, got it. Okay, so I agree with Diane that the four bays seem like they're kind of packed in to the middle of this thing. Now, if it were built, I wouldn't be saying this, but the fact that it's not built, I think there's a window of opportunity, pardon the pun, where if you look at the plans, the first floor plan and the second floor plan, and you look at all those four bubbled windows on both the first floor and the second floor, you can see that to move the right-handmost window over to the right more, and the second one, move it right more, would be perfectly feasible.
Right.
And then the windows would be more evenly spaced along that facade.
Yeah,
I think
they
would
wouldn't
be
be on the left.
what?
They would
You
not
say
be
move
the
everything
same.
No, it's, look, four bays come in all shapes and forms. There's nothing you can do on this side.
Right,
So leave
right.
that, but take these and just space them out more, and I think that you'd be getting rid of this kind of big shingled piece on either side with all the windows right in the middle. I think it's worth looking at.
So on the northwest side and the two right-hand sets of windows on the first and second floor on the northwest side would be moved to the right 6 inches, a foot,
A foot
No, they're not
a
even
foot and
fixed.
6 inches, a foot
a
for
foot to
the,
6 inches
yeah.
to the
The
right.
windows on first and second floor.
The two right-hand sets,
6, 12.
6 to 12 inches on the right. Move to the left.
Well, there's no reason why that front door couldn't be swapped with the first window in.
From a handicap, you can't, because it has to have a certain clearance. and
Yes,
they have
but
to have
look
a
at the
landing.
floor plan, you could put the window where the landing is for the staircase, the door moves over. You've got a closet backed up against another closet, it looks like. It doesn't, there's room to mush around this little entry area that if you move the door over, to replace that first window, then you could bring your, because I agree with Diane, you've got these huge gaps on either side that you wouldn't have to that extent. And the door is already stuck over to the left. Ideally, the window should be on
There.
that side, and then the door should be one step in. That's more traditional.
All right, well, I agree with you. Go ahead. Anything else on the structure besides the front facade? Right. Done with the rest of it?
Yeah, no, I'm finished with that.
John?
I found this, I drew this here just to show you taking away from symmetry if you remove those windows. And usually, in the old historic way, the top of this window goes as long as you begin, the first X, no matter where you do it. But then over here, and that's going to take away from it if you move that a foot.
I agree.
You can't move this one a foot, so you lose your symmetry here.
I don't think it's as big a deal as you think it is. This house is not that big.
Trying to make a point, that's all.
I agree with John.
Plus the view windows,
Where?
they're
Those
on
are already approved, John.
On the windows already been approved?
Mhm.
Okay.
Where are we going? Around, you guys are the alternates, right?
Yes.
Okay. Diane, anything else besides that issue?
No, I said there's two windows on the northeast elevation should be spread out. They've got the room up above to handle that. So you don't have a big vacancy up there.
Okay, we're all over the place. I know John and I agreed the front should be left alone. Ray?
Look, I still think that it would be worth looking at moving those windows further, those four further to, whatever, to the right. Is this like approval or no approval, or you guys are good with it?
Yeah.
Make a motion to hold it for revisions.
Let's approve it.
Well, Jason's made a motion to hold for revisions. You can vote against it, and we can take another motion, if that's what you wanted to do, right? So Jason's made a motion to hold for revisions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
Me.
Me. John, you were okay with it the way it is, right? So you're opposed to holding it for revisions, because we're okay with the way it is also.
Yes, I think it should. Never mind the side of it, I think the most important thing is the front, facing the street.
And leave it alone. All right, so you're voting against holding it for revisions. Okay, so you want to make another motion, Ray?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor? Ray, in
Aye.
favor? John, in favor? What? Yeah. We're in favor of Ray's motion to approve it the way it is.
Way it is, yeah.
Okay.
You got
All
it.
those opposed to approving it the way it is?
Okay.
Diane, is that you and Jason
Yes.
are opposed?
Yes.
I'm in favor. There you go.
Thank you.
Ray.
You should have spaced those windows.
So, excuse me, I only had two opposed to the hold for revisions. Who else was opposed?
John, myself, and Ray were opposed to holding for revisions, so it failed. And then Ray made another motion to approve as is. It was John, myself, and Ray in favor, and Diane opposed, and Jason opposed.
It was Ray that made the motion.
Yes. So the first one was revisions, so it was the opposite. Okay, figure that out in minutes. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to sit on it, so
Rick Gomer.
it's going to be Abby, so.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that's right, 'cause there's
Bye.
really nothing
Here you
much
go.
else going on after that.
Well, there isn't.
No.
How about anything except for the minutes?
All right, so let the record reflect that Jason left at, what is that?
Quarter of 8.
Yeah, 7.
8:46, 8:40, 7:46, right?
7:46.
Jesus,
So
where did the
who's
night
on
go?
this one now? Adam?
And she
Yes.
left before this one.
Yes.
It's almost time for me to go to work.
Okay. Oh. Let me explain it to you in a nutshell, guys. Same darn thing is being forced on these guys, though they have ways out and the building department won't give it to them. They're gonna be forced to go to the state for a variance.
Mhm.
Same thing happened down at Captain Toby's, if you all remember.
Yep.
They got the proper permits, put in the 2 new vents because they have new equipment inside. They got rid of the old stuff, put new vents in the location that they were permitted by the electrical and the plumbing inspector.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, they go to close out those permits and are told that they need a building permit. They couldn't figure out why they needed a building permit for several weeks. They couldn't get a clear answer. They seem to have a better indication of what's going on, but they take, like Captain Toby's, they have to take a few months to go up to the state to get the variance to leave them where they were previously approved by us. So in order to open up with $150,000 worth of equipment they put in that they cannot use, they have to come in here to get a temporary variance, from the temporary permit from us to move them up the roof 2 feet in order to go to Boston to get the variance to put them back 2 feet. So they're asking to move them up the roof a couple of feet, same what's there right now, just cut a new hole in the roof and move them up the roof.
And then they'll get their,
They'll get the variance, they'll move them back to where we originally approved them. So what they're asking for is the same
I
thing
make
that
a-
Captain Toby's asked for to November 1st.
I make a motion to approve.
Diane's made the motion to approve the temporary move to November 1st in order to allow them to go to Boston to get the variance.
I'm in favor of December 15th, but
Well, the other one's going to November 1st too. Do you have another one just like this, so it's easier to keep track of?
hope it don't look like another one.
No.
Are they these big silver vents?
They're not going to be silver long. I believe the original
supposed to
approved.
paint them matte
They're going
gray.
to
Matte
be
gray.
gray.
So Diane's made the motion.
Black.
Hold on, everybody. Diane's made the motion to approve the move up the roof on 149 Orange Street to November 1st, so we allow them to have time to go to the state and get a variance. If they can't get a variance, they'll be back in here to have another discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Goodbye.
Good night.
Maybe we should tell all the people want vent to paint them the same color as the roof. That way.
Well, they're painting them
I'm sorry.
gray.
I'm Ed Chase. I'm the property
Chase.
manager for
Can't be
Rick Homer.
roof black.
Whatever it is. Oh, the black doesn't work, it just chips off and looks like hell. All right, hold on, what's the other one? Oh, it's just you, me, and Ray on this one.
Good night, guys.
Oh, there's one more?
Thank you.
Hold on. Goes back.
The Camp Gamma one?
Who? Oh, that
Oh,
one.
right.
We can look at it, guys, we can look at Gamels.
Yeah, I went there and I saw the shed. Where do they want to move it to?
It's an as-built move, right where you saw it.
Oh, this is the natural.
Yeah, so we
shape.
might as well look at this one, it's pretty clear.
What is the address?
87 Somerset, it was right behind Mark's.
Oh, yeah, I went to see this.
Yeah, I sent you guys out there.
I think that's two, Diane.
I think so.
Here you go, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Who's on this
I
one?
think it's Christina.
Okay, Christine and Abby is the alternate. The shed, John, is coming. Diane? There we go, never mind. You got one right next to you. All right, these are, he paid the as-built fees, if I recall.
Nope.
What?
Okay, we had a couple of things. One of them went on consent because it's whatever, I can't see it. The shed is my understanding, Abby, did you see the shed exactly where this is drawn? Right on the corner.
No,
Where did you see the shed?
I went, I didn't actually, I wasn't sure which, if I was looking at the right one because of the numbers were
No, it's
so
right here.
screwed up.
Christine, you saw it.
I saw it.
Is it in that
I have a
location?
picture, but I can't get online, so.
But is that roughly where it was located, where you could see it from the road?
I could see it, right from the road. I
You could see it.
from the road.
This was an as-built shed that was moved there from another location. And the reason why it wasn't on consent, because he also has to pay the as-built fee. But it's also on the Somerset Road side, where he has plenty of other places to put it.
We told them this before, didn't we? Didn't one time they could come in and ask and we said it couldn't be on that?
Yeah. So what you probably should do is hold for representation, because he was supposed to be coming tonight, and I don't know what happened.
I make a motion to hold for
Diane made a
representation.
motion to hold for representation. All those in favor?
Aye.
But if anybody else can drive out there and take a look at it, you gotta take a look at it.
Down the road, I couldn't, there,
Well, the minute you take a right, you get Marty McGowan's on the corner.
right.
It's right there.
Ken,
So that's, we're holding it, all in favor of Diane's motion to hold for representation?
Aye.
Okay.
That's a nice pen.
You want it?
Oh,
Yes,
that's
it
all
was
right.
supposed to come, so I don't know what happened to him. February 6 minutes, I will have those done for you next week. What has happened at the Attorney General's, you know, the Murphy sisters have repeatedly come after us for this stuff. The Attorney General pretty much said we didn't know, it wasn't our fault. There was this mess up all along the road there. But we didn't know until afterwards, but she still wants to see a set of minutes for February 6th, even though there's only 3 of us here. So I'm going to have to go back through my notes, back through everything, and create minutes. And they just want, they don't care what they say, they just want the minutes from February 6th. So we just have to validate the fact that, yes, these are minutes from February 6th and send them off. And I'm sending them up to town council. So that's, I have to get them done for you guys. July 1st, I did send to you after we did them. That was last week. Did anybody have any concerns about those?
No.
Somebody want to make, those are the ones that we did, Ann and I did last week. Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a
those?
motion to approve.
All right, Diane's made a motion to approve July 1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. John,
Can I mention just one other thing? Sometime when you're driving, we came down Somerset Lane today, and that Don Freeman's creative space is getting worse. Now he's got a fence going, a big wide fence going across the driveway, and he's got
He's
2
had that gate for a while.
red and white blue hanging things on it, and then the big black metal mailbox and the stone wall. It looks like nothing on this island, nothing.
Okay.
Where's that located?
You can't miss it.
You can't miss it. Just go down Somerset Lane, and just before you get to the stop sign, look on your left, and you will see a stone wall that's made out of flat stones with a cap, with a black mailbox, with a big fence, big gate, and he's got bunting hanging on this stupid ass
Bunting's hanging
gate.
everywhere at the moment. We don't have control.
So this is,
Ongoing.
All right, somebody want to make a motion before we go too far down a road we're not supposed to? Can somebody make a motion to adjourn?
adjourn. I make most. Aren't we allowed to make some comment on?
Not specifically about that stuff. We have to report it a different way.
Who made the motion to adjourn?
I did.
Diane always is good for that. Adjourn at 7:54. All those in favor?
All right.
And jump up all at one time.
Woo.
Is that going off?
Well
Nothing Thursday, see you next Tuesday?
Nothing Thursday.
Hot dog.
I'm trying to keep us off Thursdays.